Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto Leviathan summoned chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Different Dimension Demon and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. A scowl crossed the face of 6-year-old Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze as he watched his mother and father training in the yard with his twin sister. Now most in Konoha wouldn't find the scene odd or out of place, but in and of itself there was one problem. Him, or the lack of his presence. Like most kids, he wanted to be a shinobi like his parents, and wanted to train a little to have a slight edge when his sister entered the academy next year, but his parents seemed to only be focused on his sister. Tomorrow Naruchan, I'm all yours, I promise. You know your sister needs all the help she can get with her chakra control was just the latest excuse his mother had given him, and it was all a lie. Tomorrow would come and she'd give him another excuse while focusing on his sister's training, turning away from the window as his mother, sister and father were all laughing about something he cursed under his breath. Where were we in lessons, Fox? The young blonde asked mentally as he took a seat at his desk where he already had supplies set out. Chakra theory, kid, a female voice replied, looking at the young boy from within the recesses of his mind. And how many times do I have to tell you to stop calling me Fox? I do have a name, you know. About as many times as I tell you to stop calling me Kit. Physical age and size doesn't mean squat when you get in any number of life-death situations like the ones they'll face as a shinobi. Naruto thought back, finding the appropriate folder in the neat stack. Chakra is the mix of physical and mental energies used to produce the use of jutsu. Chakra has other uses aside from practical combat skills related to shinobi lifestyles. Every living being possesses chakra, and no matter the minute amount one may possess, that chakra can be used to benefit that way of life. For example, farmers in Earth Country are well known to use chakra in their cultivation of food so that it takes less time to grow but also absorb more nutrients from the soil to make it healthier for you. The blonde boy glanced between illustrations and looked thoughtful as he mulled over what he read. It wasn't master-level ceiling arrays like his father's work, but for a 6-year-old it was slightly challenging even with it being dumbed down for younger readers. Chakra isn't all for making things go boom, the voice said with a snicker at the expression on his face. I got that part, Fox, Naruto thought with a mental glare. I was thinking about other means it could be used for. If its practical applications are near limitless, then I wonder what ways we haven't thought to use it yet. His eyes closed as he focused on the space where he spent his nights. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a classroom that with the sole inhabitant, besides himself, being a woman. If he had to guess just on how she looked, he'd peg her as in her early 30s, but really in shape for a woman that looked to just be entering the physical prime of her life. Long crimson red hair and a ponytail reached her, but as two long strands hung around her heart-shaped face, her skin flawless and without blemish. Unlike most modern women he saw that walk around in clothes that flaunted their bodies, she wore a rather conservative and traditional, but still flattering, royal blue kimono decorated with flower petals printed in a way that looked like they were being blown on a breeze in the night sky. Golden eyes met his gaze as he took a seat and waited patiently for what was coming next. Teacher mode. He and the fox spirit got along well, but when it came to his studies she made sure he knew what he was reading about and had no questions. Okay, Kit, list off the ways you are currently aware of that chakra is used in the world around you, the fox woman said as she summoned a seat and sat in front of him. Shinobi use it for fighting and jutsus of all categories. I don't understand the whole concept, but one of Dad's books says Snow Country uses it to power something called trains, to travel long distances faster than going by foot. It's used to produce electricity by all the major villages. The paper said Earth Country farmers use it to grow more food in less time. Oh yes, some shinobi like that dog guy who bothers my sister use it to track people down if they commit crimes, Naruto said, pinching his chin in thought. That's a good start, but chakra, like the paper said, has the potential for 1,000,000 yet undiscovered uses in both shinobi and non-shinobi ways. Chakra is as alive as you or me, so as much as people use it willy-nilly to their heart's content, you have to remember that you have to respect it. There's a saying that goes, don't bite the hand that feeds you, which roughly means don't take anything for granted. That includes the use of chakra. It very well could be the difference between a shinobi living or dying on the battlefield, or if we're talking about it in a non-shinobi way, could be the difference between having the power in your house to watch your favorite show or not, the woman said. Seeing Naruto stare at her with a cocked head, she had to fight to keep in a squeal because it was adorable on him, and decided to try a different explanation. It's as alive as we are. Treat it with respect like you show me, and I can say with pretty good odds it won't hurt you if you USD it to do something. Why didn't you say it that way in the first place? I know I spend a lot of time learning from books and lessons with you, meaning I'm pretty smart for my age group, but I'm still only 6, Naruto said with a pout. The fox woman couldn't help the giggle at the cuteness that was the scene before her as she took the few steps to kneel beside his desk. I know, Kit, but sometimes I forget that. For only being 6 you are so smart and mature that I try to compensate for everything you miss out on in the real world, she said, hugging the blonde as he sighed softly against her neck before small arms wrapped tightly around her waist as he nuzzled into her. I know you do, and I appreciate your efforts. It's nice to know someone cares, Hitomi Kasa, Naruto said, closing his eyes, enjoying the warmth coming off the fox spirit even if the warmth was only mental. Hitomi smiled softly and held Naruto closer as he called her Kasa-an. It wasn't the first time he'd been vocal about being appreciative about her efforts to not only teach him to be strong and smart, while still treating him as a child to let him enjoy his childhood, but it was the first time he'd called her Kasa, and she would be a bold-faced liar if she said her metaphorical heart didn't clench. "They'll always care, my precious Sochi. Those two can ignore you in favor of your sister, but Kasa will be here for her kid, forever and always," she whispered softly and kissed his forehead. The quiet, heartfelt words brought tears to her eyes as she felt the fabric of her kimono get wet around her stomach. Lifting Naruto into her arms properly, she held the small boy close to her chest and rocked him. "It's time for you to return my kit. We'll play later, I promise," she said once she saw the tears had stopped falling from Naruto's eyes. "Hi," Naruto said softly and looking down. He didn't want to leave. It wasn't like his parents would have anything interesting to say to him at dinner and pawn off questions about his day as genuine interest in their eldest child's life. Of course Naruto would butt in before he could say anything of substance, and launch into a rant his parents would solely focus on. "It's only 3 hours, my precious Sochi. You can still talk to me, you know this," Hitomi said, tipping Naruto's head up so his eyes met hers. "I know, it's just I wish you had a real body so we could be together all the time instead of these moments in my head," Naruto said with a sigh. "Then become a strong shinobi and find a way to make me a body," Hitomi said, catching his attention. "You're smart, my kid, I have every faith in you. If anyone can find a way to give me a body, I know you can." Naruto smiled a little as his eyes beamed with pride at the confidence Hitomi had in him. "I promise he'll find a way to make you a body, Kasa," he said, holding his pinky, making the fox woman laugh a little. "I know, Sochi," Hitomi said, catching her pinky around Naruto's. "Now scoot, go eat something and take a bath before you come back, or you stink." She stuck her tongue out playfully as he glared cutely before bopping her on the nose. "I do not," Naruto said before disappearing from his mind. "I must thank you, Kushina. Yours and your husband's poor choices have given me the kid I always wanted," Hitomi thought, waving her hand, making the classroom melt and changed into a comfortable home with a fireplace that already had the fire roaring, making it cozy. "He'll know a mother's love and support from me, since you seem inept at doing it for both your children." She curled up on a couch to await her Sochi's return. The thought of the term made her smile softly as her eyes looked into the fire. Naruto sighed bored as he sat in the back of the academy classroom as Irika droned on about something or another. With the graduation test 3 days away, they were reviewing the basic jutsu required to pass the exam and other miscellaneous items. "This is such a waste. The jutsu are stupid simple to do, and while a fundamental stepping stone to any shinobi, the bunshin is useless as it's only an illusion," he thought to himself. "And just what are you trying to say about my specialty, Sochi-kun?" Hitomi asked in a sickly sweet tone. In the years that followed the first time Naruto had called her Kasa, and the pair had grown closer not only as mother and son but also in a sort of hybrid. Teacher-student supportive older sister on the sidelines when it came to his training. "Nothing, Kasa. I'm not dismissing the practical and combat merits of real illusions you've taught me to use or the watered-down genjutsu that shinobi use, but when you use the bunshin, it's obvious that it's a farce. If you want my honest opinion, it's a wonder we don't have more dead Konoha shinobi. All that is taught is irrelevant here. Calligraphy, while useful for Fuinjutsu, was brushed over for an elective that focused on pretty words and artistry rather than practical shinobi skills. History focused only on the village, and if they even mentioned a battle, it has the barest details. Knowing how the battle was fought, troop placements on both sides, how the attacks proceeded, what attack types were used, etc. would be useful to instill a sense of tactics and battlefield know-how. They focus too damn much on city skills and junk of that sort when this is supposed to be a shinobi academy, Naruto thought. "Naruto, are you even paying?" Irika asked with a tick on his forehead. "Considering I tuned you out after the mention of reviewing the history of the 3 basic jutsu most of us should have mastered in the 2nd year, no. Quite frankly, Irika-sensei, I have to say something, and take it as you will tell Hokage-sama if you feel you must, but this academy is pathetic. While I understand that it builds the foundation for most of us attending for what it means to be a shinobi, and for most of us I do mean all the civilian children who come from non-shinobi families, that's all it does. If you look at views of how the other 4 great villages train their future shinobi, it's far more vigorous. They expose them to a little of every facet of the shinobi arts. What does our academy do? Basic taijutsu, the basic 3 ninjutsu, minimal genjutsu, and throwing weapon practice. I wouldn't be surprised if half the civilians who pass and become genin die on their first mission outside the village," Naruto said blandly. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop as the kids in the room stared at the blonde with wide eyes. Naruto rarely ever contributed anything to the class conversation, but here he just criticized the village academy, systematically pointing out its shortcoming. "Then there's one other glaring fact. Let's talk about the clan heirs. The academy is tailored as a loose how-to guide for civilians. Clan heirs who have access to outside training have the leg up over civilians who have no access to training material without a pass from the academy to access the shinobi section of the library to even hope to catch up to their clan peers in understanding. The system is rigged to give the clan kids or those who have shinobi relatives a leg up." Irika's tick increased, but Naruto's logic was sound. "Be that as it may, Naruto, you fit into that section of your own logic too. After all, your father is the Hokage and teaches you, and he has taught me jack shit," Naruto hissed with a glare surprising everyone. He one hand seal later he hinged into a perfect copy of his father, and she the hen shifted into a perfect copy of Kushina. Spend time training my brat of an attention-seeking twin, he said, letting the henge drop. I teach myself. I practice by myself to better and diversify my skills, so I won't die on my first real mission. Don't compare me to those spoiled brats. Of course he was lying about being self-taught, but he wasn't about to let anyone know about his Kasan. A couple of rows down, Naruto's twin, Naruto, frowned deeply. Like her brother, she had father's bright blonde hair and blue eyes. Her skin was a natural tan and blemishless, with the exception of 6 whisker-like marks on her cheek, 3 on each cheek. Being slightly above average build for a 13-year-old, at 13 she was about 5 feet 3 inches and already blooming with a small C-cup bust. She knew her brother resented her because of all the special attention their parents, but with the corrosive and destructive young half of the QB, she needed all the help she could get. Before it could erupt in a pissing match between the pair of siblings, Irika dismissed the class. Naruto opened the window and jumped out the window, landing on a tree branch nearby before making his way towards the training grounds reserved for academy students. He wasn't one to be angry often. Hell, him being upset was rare, considering part of his training with Hitomi included control of his emotions. But being compared to the spoiled clan kids and his brat sister pissed him off. Calm down, my precious kid. Hitomi's voice drifted around him like a warm blanket as his fists collided with the Taijutsu dummy. I know you hate the comparison, but remember your breathing exercises. When it seemed he wasn't listening, the fox sighed and spiked her chakra for a moment in his coils, forcing his muscles to relax. Unlike her corrosive and destructive-orientated yang chakra sealed in Naruto, the Ian half was a calming and healing sort. Kit, you're better than this. What have I taught you? She asked as Naruto rested his head against the training dummy. Never let my emotions cloud my thinking. It can lead to my death or the death of my teammates, Naruto muttered with a sigh. I'm sorry, Kasan, I lost my head back there. It's just. You don't need to say a word, Sochi, Hitomi said as she let her chakra leak out a little more, relaxing all of Naruto's tense muscles before recalling the chakra back before anyone could sense it. Kit, just remember your head next time. I know you despise being compared. Wind over the water, Kit, let it go and carry on. Hi, Kasan, Naruto said quietly before taking a relaxed stance before the dummy. He was already here. Might as well train a bit before he go home and get an earful from his family. For the next 2 hours he went through the katas for the taijutsu style that Hitomi had been teaching him over the last few years. While he had no battle experience to tweak it, obviously, he was confident enough in it to have sparred against Sasuke and beat him a fair few times. When he got home he was met by a hard glare from Minato. He had been informed of Naruto's tirade and outburst. To say he was upset for an understatement. What do you have for yourself, young man? He asked with a hard tone. That from a cold clinical standpoint I'm right, and our village's current academy curriculum is a joke. That from a cold clinical standpoint you're going to be presiding over a lot of funerals from civilian children who make genin and die on a first serious mission outside of the village. From my own understanding of what a parent should be, you and Kushina are a failure favoring my brat twin. When, news flash, Minato, I have half of the QB in me too, but that's right, I don't have the destructive side, so my training doesn't matter, does it? Naruto asked with a cold sneer. He saw his father flinch at each point made, and more so at the glaring failure of a parent he was. Leaving the man standing there, he went to his room and glared harshly at Kushina, who was staring at him with wide, teary eyes. Don't touch me, he hissed, noticing the woman reaching out to touch him but flinched back at his tone. Go train your daughter, after all you only wanted a girl anyway. He saw her eyes widen more in horror before walking to his room and slamming the door before locking it. Hitomi felt the rage coursing so harshly through Naruto that she pulled him into his mind the moment he sat down. Before he could say a word she had him held tightly in her arms as she nuzzled the top of his head. She felt him struggle, and it only made her hold on tighter. Sochi, calm down, she said, her voice hard but loving. They aren't your family, and that house isn't your home. Her words seemed to calm slightly as a heavy sigh escapes his lips and his shoulders slumped heavily in defeat. I'm sorry, Kasan, Naruto said quietly. For a second time in one day he lost his cool and nearly lost it. It's okay, my kid, Kasan has you, Hitomi whispered softly. As soon as you make genin you qualify for shinobi housing, so you can be free from this irritation. Then we can begin the search for your real brothers and sisters. Naruto glanced up with a small smile and a light in his eyes. You mean, yes, my sweet Sochi, the other containers like yourself, Hitomi said, running her claw-tipped fingers through his hair lovingly. Rest, I can see that the emotional outbursts have taken a lot of you. The room changed and now the pair were sat on a large bed in a comfy bedroom. As she laid them down, Naruto didn't resist and seemed to curl up to the fox spirit. Promise me you'll be here when I wake, Naruto said softly as he nuzzled his head into Hitomi's chest, her scent and the quiet beat of her heart relaxing him. Kasan will always be here, Sochi. She would never leave her kid alone, Hitomi said quietly, wrapping her arms around her son. The quiet words made him smile softly, making her heart flutter with warmth as he fell asleep contently against her chest. Kasan loves her kid too much to leave you alone. I'll kill anyone who tries to take you from me or tries to hurt you, Sochi, she whispered, kissing his forehead before burying her face in his hair. Not too shortly after she joined him in content sleep. Her grip loosened slightly, but mother and son curled up close to each other for warmth. Chapter 3. Tick-tock go the hands on the clock. Naruto and Naruko's graduation exam. So how did your graduation exam go? Did you two pass? Kushina asked, spotting her children enter the Uzumaki Namikaze compound. Naruto, ever the bratty and excitable ball of sunshine everyone loved even if they disliked her, grinned, bouncing on her heels, nodding quickly. It was so easy, Kaa-chan. I could have done it one-handed and blindfolded, the blonde said excitedly. Unlike her big brother, who chose to keep with dark tones to his clothes as he got older, she liked lighter tones, leading to her dressed in one of her usual outfits, a sky blue kunoichi battle dress that hugged her frame, accentuating her feminine form, solely based on the fact that the exam was pathetically pitiful and Neanderthalic. Your husband doesn't know how to take advice, does he, Kushina-san? Or is he as soft as Lord Third was to keep the same advisory council that uses their position to line their pockets and undermine his authority? Naruto asked. Instead of his usual training gear, ANBU-style pants and mesh undershirt covered by a black short-sleeve one, he had lazily chosen sweats and a baggy hoodie to take his test in. Of course, everyone didn't expect much from him, even if he was the Yandame's son. That was how Naruto wanted it. While Naruto was top kunoichi, he had purposefully done everything to be middle of the pack in the guy's side of the rankings, so he would be a wild card and underestimated more often than not. You will show your faith. Oh, I have a father, do I? Where was he the first 6 years when I wanted or needed something? Where was my mother, for that matter? More importantly, my twin, who was supposed to be the closest to me, Naruto asked with a dark hiss. Oh, that right, they didn't exist till all three you had your oh shit moment on her. He glared blankly at Naruto, who looked away in shame's 7th birthday. I don't want part of you. I don't want part of your husband. I don't want any part of this household, or its clans. You already named her heir to both clans on her 7th birthday just before your too little too late realization, so you don't need me, and you've made it abundantly clear. He placed his headband on the table by the front door. Oni-senwi, holy shit, the church mouse speaks. Let us write its holy script, and proclaim it the word of Kami to the masses. The sarcasm made both women wince at the barely restrained anger in Naruto's voice. As soon as I get placed on a team and moving into the shinobi housing complex, you three can play house for all I care. Your attempts to bribe me into forgiving you have gotten really old. After 6 years of throwing everything back in your faces, I would have thought you'd have gotten it by now, but that's my mistake. Stupid is as stupid does, and I was stupid to think you would sincerely try to make up for your past transgressions. Naruto spat at them. Tell your husband if he assigns that cycloptic transplant student of his to be my jounin sensei, Kushina-san, I'm tendering my resignation as a shinobi and leaving the village. Damn Sochi. I know I said let them know how you truly feel, but even I feel a little bad for them. Minato not so much, but Kushina and your twin tried to some degree to be sincere, to try making amends, Hitomi thought as Naruto walked up into his room and slammed the door for effect as the muffled sobs of the women downstairs reached her ears. Through his senses. Too little too late. Any sincerity was rendered invalid when every jutsu scroll, chakra control scroll and money was tossed at me as a bribe to distract me from my righteous anger. Naruto thought. I had an idea to free you from the seal, but you may not like it. What idea would that be? Hitomi asked guardedly. She trusted her kid with her life, because she had to, and he was bloody brilliant, but the way he cautiously worded his last sentence made her uneasy. With the right seals and a sword I could transfer your soul, effectively making you a. Naruto hesitated again, since the idea didn't sit well with him, but it was the only idea he had left, a blood-bound weapon to me. Before you say it, I don't like the idea either, and I never could view you as a weapon, but it's the only idea I have left. Bunshins won't last for a Yukai transfer since ITLL destabilized too quick, and plans AK we agreed would kill us both. I don't know what else to try, Ka-san. Hitomi's fur bristled at the idea of trading being a prisoner and her son for being the prisoner of a weapon, but Naruto was right. The transfer of my spirit could very well kill us both during the bonding kit, Hitomi thought, forcing a calm over herself. Or you could always form a summon contract for the Fox clan and have him sign it. Being the head, you have the authority to do so, and making yourself his personal summon would free you of this prison. Naruto and Hitomi went on alert at the new voice in his head. Now Hitomi, don't tell me you've forgotten your precious Winnie-sama. I may just cry if you have. Out of the shadows of his mind stepped a winged serpentine woman, leaving Naruto floored for 2 reasons. Number 1, she was attractive, to be polite. Pale skin was contrasted by inky midnight sky black hair with silver eyes peering out between 2 long bangs framing her heart-shaped face. A purple and gold kimono hugged her figure nicely, accentuating her feminine goods nicely while preserving a bit of modesty. What really caught his attention were the dark gray wings sprouting from her back. The other reason he was floored, Hitomi had quite literally flying glomped the woman and had her in a tight hug, as she purred Levi Winnie-sama into the woman's neck, happily nuzzling her. Ka-san, who is this exactly, and why is she in my head? Naruto asked as he pulled himself into his mind once he settled into a meditative position in his room. Ka-san, her little sister? Didn't even bother to tell me you had a kit, and here I was. He's not mine by birth, Winnie-sama. My previous host and her mate neglected him in favor of his sister, who possessed the yang half of my chakra, so I took it upon myself to be there for him like his parents neglected to be, Hitomi said with a growl. So he's adopted then? Not fully, not yet anyway. He agreed to the ritual to change to be like us, but I won't do it yet. He's too young, and I worry the influx of Yukai to influence the change all at once will warp him, so I'm getting him used to the feeling and effects of Yukai gradually for the moment. Will you two stop talking about me like I am not standing right here? Naruto asked with a growl and a twitchy eyebrow. Kinda reminds me of a myth kit. Cute and adorable but threatening as a wet kitten, the woman said with a shrug, tilting her head to the side, dodging a kunai. Now nephew, is that any way to treat your anti-leviathan? Naruto stared in shock. Come again now? He asked, thinking he imagined what he just heard. Is that any way, my little kid of a nephew, to treat your anti-leviathan? Especially when she comes bearing gift and the keys to your mother's freedom? Leviathan asked with a smirk, revealing a set of fangs. Forgive me, auntie, I didn't know. Ka-sen hasn't mentioned you before, Naruto said, bowing his head a little in shame. After running the woman's words through every demon and human lie detecting method Hitomi taught him only to come back as truth, of nearly injuring family even if they just met. She hasn't, has she? Leviathan asked, looking to Hitomi, who was hiding her face in her elder sister's chest. We can rectify getting to know each other later, nephew. For now I come with gifts not seen since the time of Hagamoro, or as you know him to be Sage of the Six Paths. Naruto's jaw dropped at the statement. What kind of gifts? He asked with a momentary stutter, something he hadn't done since before Hitomi taught him to speak properly. His summoning contract with my clan and all the benefits that come with it. Weapons, techniques, fighting styles, and the aid of my clan whenever you need it. But you have to fulfill one duty as his heir, complete the old man's dream of bringing peace to the elemental nations. Promise me on your honor as the heir of Hagamoro and my little sister to do that. It's yours. Do I have to do it a certain way? Naruto asked thoughtfully. The old man was idealistic and a dreamer. You are pragmatic and realistic, so I'm going to stretch my wings here and say no, you don't have a strict confines on how to do it. Then as the heir of the sage and the strongest Biju, Jubi aside, I will bring peace to the nations. There may be bloodshed, but there will be peace, Auntie Naruto said as Leviathan summoned the scroll and let him sign it. At the same time, across all the elemental nations, a cold shiver raced down nearly every shinobi in Kunoichi's spine as a sense of dread fell upon them. Something had changed in their world and they would soon find out what, but what they did know was it would be fierce. Kami save us, was the thought echoed by 9 individuals staring out at the setting sun as seals on their person glowed in ominous burnt orange. Meanwhile, a man in an orange swirl mask and a black cloak with red clouds shuddered in fear. What is this power? He thought, trying to shake off the feeling like a timer had just been started on the countdown that was now his life. Back in Naruto's mind, now that that's done, I'm going to claim a room in your head here for the night, kit. Too lazy to go back to the summon realm, Leviathan yawned after making the scroll disappear. Take Ka-san with you for tonight. I haven't seen her that relaxed and sleeping peacefully since the first time I called her mom when I was 6, Naruto said, laughing softly, as Hitomi changed unconsciously into a small fox and snuggled into Leviathan's chest with her face buried in the other woman's neck. While the serpentine woman sat up, he knelt down and lovingly scratched Hitomi's ears, making her purr happily in her sleep and paw Leviathan. Rest well, Ka-san, he said before kissing the top of her head gently. And just where are you going, kit? Leviathan asked, rubbing a finger through her little sister's fur. Dinner with my family and then training. I haven't mastered the basics of the sword style. Ka-san showed me her memories of perfecting while all the Biju were still part of the Jubi, the Hiten Mitsurajiryu, Naruto said, phasing out of his mind while Leviathan stared. Visions of Decimation is a series of high-rank genjutsu that revolves around disconnecting the target's senses from reality entirely. Use of supplemental genjutsu to make sure the target does not break the active Visions of Decimation technique is recommended. The first technique in the Naruto's reading was interrupted as the scroll in his hands was knocked out of his hands by an irritated Satsuki Uchiha. Unless you have a very good reason for doing that, or you have a death you want me to fill for you, I hope you have a good reason for interrupting my reading, Naruto said with a sharp, snappy sneer. Satsuki, ever the broody emo princess, scoffed at him and shoved Naruto's desk at him. Sensei is here, you asshole. You, me and sister under your mother, she said with a disdainful look. The class looked at the pair and shook their heads internally. It was clear the Uchiha heiress had the hots for Naruto, and the blonde clearly did not care about that fact at all, instead found amusement in tormenting the girl. Great, just goddamn great. Anything else you want to tell me? The sky is falling. Shikamaru's gay, a choking sound filled the room as eyes swiveled to see said young man blushing. Wait, are you? Shit, I was joking about that, Shikamaru, but whatever floats your boat. At least you won't have to worry about troublesome kids. Well, since my day is ruined now, might as well get this fucking over with. Oh, and Shika, remember to use protection. Naruto made a half-ram hand seal and poofed in a swirl of flames. Did he just insinuate that the smartest kid of our class is not only having sex but also gay? Naruto blinked slightly at the kid's shock. What? Don't tell me you didn't know. Holy shit, you people are slow. Kiba, how many months you and your shadow puppet been secretly dating? She asked the Inzuka heir, who blushed angrily. We are not dating. Kiba growled. Mama, that's why you two can never look each other in the eye and always stare at the other's ass when they aren't paying attention, right? Naruto asked with a smirk as both boys blushed and glared darkly at her. Now Naruchan, don't tease your classmates. Just because little Kiba and Shikaku are dating does not give you the right to tease. Unless you gave birth to them. Shut up and grab Satsuki so we can go talk to your brother, as a teen Kushina said with a mixed motherly teacherly scold. As the pair of girls approached, she grabbed their shoulders and made them disappear in a swirl of leaves. For the love of Kami, we are not gay. Kiba and Shikamaru yelled in frustration amidst the rumors already beginning to spread. 2 classrooms over the Yaoi Fangirl Club girls felt their senses tingling and began to giggle pervertedly, wondering who their new target subjects to study were. On the roof. You're late. I expected you 2 minutes and 35 seconds, Naruto said with a scowl, looking up from the scroll he had been reading earlier. Since this is probably going to be the standard getting to know each other thing, can we hurry this along? Well, since you want to kill my thunder, you go first, Kushina said with a scowl at her son. I like things I dislike or hate others. I have no dreams or hobbies. You already know my name, Naruto said before going back to reading. Kushina's eyebrow and hands twitched as Satsuki Naruto shuffled away. Naruto, don't you think that you should add a little more to your introduction? She asked with a sickeningly sweet tone that made no uncertainty it was in order, as the team's Jounin sensei. No, not particularly. Satsuki has a single-track mind with 2 main objectives. 1. To murder her elder brother for murdering their clan. 2. Get in my pants to revive said clan because of this ill-conceived notion in her mind that her arrogance bred by the people of this village bowing to her clan before its slaughter has given this idea that at some point I'll bow to her Uchiha will and fuck her senseless. Naruto droned, bored as all hell. As far as you and Naruto-san goes, I observed you two with Hokage-sama for 6 years, so I know all I need to know about you. How you two fight, techniques you favor, the weapons you use, etc. Am I the only one uncomfortable? Naruto asked Satsuki. The Uchiha female didn't answer as she hid an undignified blush behind steepled fingers. Plus, the chunin exams are being hosted here in Konoha in a year. Since the chunin exams is about who has the biggest militarily speaking, I wouldn't be surprised if your husband made the suggestion to all the Jounins who have a team with a clan heir to nominate them as ringer teams, Naruto said, glancing up from the scroll with one eye to notice Kushina's blanched expression. What, you look surprised, Kushina-san? Do you think that your husband is not capable of such an action? Ka-san, what does Oniai-san mean by ringer team? Naruto asked, looking confused. I mean the show team. This graduating class has the heirs of every clan in Konoha. This means 2 things. 1. The heirs are obviously well trained, and that means they will be strong contenders for the chunin exams, possibly be promoted to chunin. Secondly, following the coattails of my previous point being they are strong and well trained, it will showcase the new generation's strength concerning the clans of Konoha. However, attention will be focused on 2 people in particular if I am right, Naruto said, rolling his scroll up. Who would they be? Naruto asked, looking intently at Naruto, missing Satsuki palming her face at the blonde-haired girl's idiocy. Us, you idiot. With my brother killing everyone in my clan, I am, for lack of a better phrase, the last Uchiha. You are the named heir to not only the Namikaze and Uzumaki clan but the only child the other villages warrant attention for as the child of Yondaime Hokage. I wouldn't be surprised if teams from the other villages competed with the sole purpose of gaining information on our abilities, Satsuki said, getting a sheepish look from Naruto and Ino as a response. You find killing the fun in everything amusing, don't you? Kushina asked with a scowl, eyeing Naruto. Just as amusing as neglecting your eldest child for 7 years and then trying to bribe their forgiveness, Naruto said, rolling the scroll up and tossed it into the air before it disappeared into a black hole-like pocket that appeared to swallow it whole and disappear as quick. What was that? Kushina asked wearily, knowing something like that existed in the sealing notes of the clan archives. Don't worry about it. You aren't our official sensei yet anyway, so I don't have to tell you squat, Naruto said, surprising Naruto. What do you mean she's not our official sensei yet, Oniai-san? Of course she is, Naruto said. Actually, he's right. The academy final exam shows who has the potential to become a full genin. You still have to pass my test, Kushina said. Naruto slapped a dunce cap on Naruto's head as he gave her a told you so look. Where did you get the dunce cap? Satsuki asked as Naruto gave Naruto a pitiful look. Here, there, from inside the crack of your ass, Naruto said, rolling his eyes as he gave the smart-ass asshole answer, making Satsuki blush darkly in anger at the last part. Just meet me at training ground 7 at 9 a.m. for your test, or I will fail you all and send you back for a year of remedial training, Kushina said, rubbing her temples to stave off a migraine. That means more time to refine my personal techniques if that happens, Naruto said with a shrug before taking off via the rooftops towards the training grounds as Kushina disappeared in a standard shunshin, while Satsuki left via the stairs, leaving Naruto alone on the roof looking confused still. Wait, come on. We still need to do a stupid test to be full genin? Naruto wailed with a screeching whine, putting Sakura to shame. Inside the classroom at the same time, Sakura sneezed and wiped her nose, cursing whoever was talking about her. Unless it was Satsuki. The thought made her blush and giggle pervertedly, making her teammates, a really pale boy named Sai and some civilian kid named Kaori, scoot away from her with matching what the fuck expressions on their faces. Naruto's private training ground. Summoning. Hitomi, Naruto said, flashing through the hand signs after putting up a chakra-suppressing barrier so no one felt the output. As the column of smoke cleared, he flashed through the seals again and said, summoning. Leviathan. When both columns of smoke blew away, both women stood impressed as the second summoning brought young Leviathan with the summoning of his aunt the contract. Huo, the young Leviathan said, flapping its wings as it flapped its wings, floating in place in its animal form. Well, nephew, you keep surprising me, Leviathan said with a pleasantly surprised look. Seems your familiar just happens to be my youngest daughter. The older woman laughed lightly as the Leviathan tackled he and nuzzled into her chest. Easy, Kikyo, it's time to be serious. That is Naruto. He is your cousin and partner from now on, she said as the cutesy expression slipped off the young Leviathan's face as she became serious. Well, treat me well then, Naruto-kun, and we will have no problems, cousin Kikyo said as she changed to her human form looking like a younger version of her mother. Oh, I think we'll get along just fine, Naruto said with a mischievous smirk. Naruto grimaced slightly as he nursed a black and blue arm as Kushina went on about something like teamwork and flaws they individually possessed. The only flaw is I used the Kitsukeikan a little longer than I should have, he thought. The Kitsukeikan was one of the more fundamental technique to the taijutsu style that Hitomi taught him, but it was powerful for a low-level technique. With directed use of dual fire and wind nature chakra channeled through his attacks, he could create, or close distances between himself and his opponent. Of course, his natural element being wind, it stood to reason that his affinity to channeling raw fire chakra to enhance attacks left much to be desired, and it showed with the rapidly healing burns on his hands. Well, you three passed my test, officially making you three Team Ramen and Toma. Finish that sentence, and I leave my headband on the ground. I refuse to be made a mockery of because some people think with their stomach, Naruto said with a withering scathing look. Lighten up, Oniai-san. Ka-san was not being serious. She noticed you spacing out like you were studying a seal array and said something purposefully stupid to get your attention, Naruto said with a pout. Truth be told, she was spacing a little too, knowing she had left one too many opening in her defense, but for lack of a better phrase she was well rounded with a slight more reliance on her Wazakashi. Saying stupid things isn't hard for her, Naruto said, rolling his eyes. Kushina looked hurt at the statement before smacking him over the head with a paper fan she produced out of nowhere. The look that followed was cold enough to freeze hell over as the very visage of a demon, scarier than the Shinigami, formed behind him, making Naruto and Satsuki scoot a good 50 to the right. Satsuki watched the exchange with wide eyes and actually cowering slightly behind Naruto. Of course she would deny it if anyone accused her of it, but there were two things that utterly scared the shit out of her. 1. The Ainitao stumbling upon the massacre of her clan. Discovering your clan of nearly 500 all but slaughtered by one person, her Elida brother she loved and admired more than anyone in the world, scared her to the very foundation of her core. The second thing to scare her, a pissed-off Naruto. The sense of danger and barely contained rage animosity just spelled doom for the unlucky sap that pissed him off. Now, that's no way to talk to your sensei, Kushina chided with a pout. Teach me something I don't know and I'll consider it. Otherwise you're just another Jounin squad leader, Naruto said, clenching and unclenching his fist to relieve the muscle ache. If there's nothing else, I'm going to train. Kikyo, you coming or you going to spy longer still? He asked, calling out, confusing the three women. There's no one else here, Kushina said slowly with a tilt of her head. Before she could say anything else, a winged serpent flew out of the tree and floated in front of her son's face for a moment before nuzzling his cheek. Not bad, Foxy Woxy. A little too deceptive of a taijutsu style for the clan's preferred methods, but powerfully deceptive, Kikyo said, nodding to herself. And you need to work more on your control of elemental chakra. Can have that, she nodded to his arm, happen every time you get caught in a drawn-out taijutsu spar. Thank you, Captain Obvious, for this revelation I knew not of, Naruto said, rolling his eyes sarcastically. However, it was different. Unlike everyone else, the tone he used and even the flick to the summon animal's nose was playful, like brother and sister behavior unknowingly on his part, sparking jealous feeling in Naruto. Come on, I'll buy you a juicy mouse and you can give me your observations in greater detail, he said, making a motion for the winged serpent to follow him. Naruto, just who is that? Satsuki asked, pointing to the winged snake happily rubbing her head against his own after settling on top of his head. And what exactly do you mean its observations? Kikyo here is my summon contract familiar, so naturally she goes where I go, Naruto said with a raised eyebrow, ignoring the three women's shocked looks. As far as her observations? I told her to hide in the treetops and suppress her presence so she could observe our test. She knows the strengths and weaknesses to how I fight. The purpose was for her to see how you three do so she can provide the right support on real missions. Just what contract did you sign? I never seen a summons like her before, Naruto said, trying to pet Kikyo's wings, but the winged serpent hissed at her, baring fangs, making the blonde retreat quickly. Of course you haven't. Her clan's contract is not native to Konoha, Naruto said, affectionately scratching under Kikyo's chin, elicting a purr-like hiss from the summon. I don't particularly know where they hail from, but one day after training myself into the ground I noticed little Kikyo here staring at me from the treetops. Long story short, her clan sent her to find someone worthy to sign their clan contract, and she found me. After meeting with her mother, the boss, and some serious questions that are meant to search the soul character of the potential summoner, I was allowed to sign it, he said, shrugging. What clan is she from, and would they consider an alliance with the village? Kushina asked. She could feel a strength coming off the winged serpent, and pondered if they thought her son worthy enough to summon, if they would take on other summoners. We are Leviathans, progenitors of the disgraced snake clan. Once the personal summons of the Sage of the Six Paths himself, and we would not consider such, Kikyo said, her tone losing the cutesy edge she often used to mess with people. We contract only those pure of ambitions and heart like Naruto-kun. After the elders saw his memories at their request, they were disgusted with people like you who left their young to their own devices for no reason. She glared darkly at Kushina. And you who abandoned kin to better yourself, she said, shifting her glare to Naruto as both women looked to the ground. Should Naruto-kun ever have children who wish to be shinobi, we will test them to see if they are worthy of our aid, but that's that. Well, there's you answer straight from the snake's mouth, Naruto said, shrugging, and rolled his eyes as the cute glare being directed at him from Kikyo's head bent down to look him in the eyes. Don't look at me like that, it's quicker to say than Leviathan every single time. Well, you got reports to file, Kushina-san, so I'm going to leave to train, so yeah. He leapt into the trees to find an empty training ground away from people to practice. Inside the Yandame's office, Minato looked at the gathered jounin and waited patiently as each team sensei for the new genin gave their reports of their final tests. Teams 1 through 6 failed outright for one reason or another, stupid reasons quite frankly, and all but one team was recommended to be dropped from the shinobi program completely. Team 10 led by Sarutobi Asuma with the current Ino Shikacho members passed, though Asuma requested a strong auxiliary kunoichi trainer to help him break Ino's fangirl attitude issues. Team 8 led by rookie jounin Kurina Yuhi consisting of the current Abirame, Hyuga and Inzuka heirs was passed with only passing remarks that she had to work on Hinata's confidence. Someone needed to beat Kiba out of his bad habit of leering at women, like they were pieces of meat. And what about your team, Kushina? Minato asked. They passed. Naruto is skilled in nearly every area of the ninja arts except medical. He engaged me one-on-one in taijutsu while Satsuki and Naruto took to the trees to plan. Between his channeling of fire and wind elemental chakra I had to keep a safe distance. Satsuki has a good reservoir of ninjutsu and weapon-orientated techniques like her clansmen did. Taijutsu needs work since her clan's signature style is too stiff for her body type. Naruko is well-rounded as you already know and pressed the advantage of her teammates, putting me on the ropes, snatching the bells at my waist while putting me at kunai point. To end the test, Kushina said, surprising most of the jounin. She was one of the best kunoichi in the village, and earn if she was holding back since it was a genin test. Her being defeated was a shock. I see, anything special to note? Minato asked, jotting down notes about Naruto since he had no clue of his son's skills. Yeah, one thing. Naruto has a summon contract, Kushina said. Minato fell out of his chair, making the assembled jounin look between the husband and wife pair confused. Shouldn't they know if their child had a summon contract? Most were wondering if the toads were it since Minato and Naruto were part of it, so it stood to reason Naruto would too. Which contract does he possess? Minato asked, pulling himself back into his seat. According to his familiar, several of the jounin's eyes widened since it was rare for a contracted summoner to have a familiar unless the clan was old and powerful. They are leviathans that once served as the sage of the Six Paths, personal summons and progenitors of the snake clan shamed by Orochimaru, Kushina said, flooring nearly everyone in the room. I asked if they would consider an alliance with the village and taking on more summoners, but she flat out refused and said that they would align with any of Naruto's children he had in the future if they wished to be shinobi and pass their test. But after the contract, elders asked to see his memories. Well, you can guess how that went. The familiar ripped me and Naruto a new one before she Naruto went off to train. ISC, Minato said, shocked to the core like everyone else. A contract belonging to the sage himself? In the hands of his own son? Damn if he wasn't proud but worried at the same time at having the contract elders knowing of his, Kushina's and Naruto's basic denial of Naruto's existence for 6 years to train her over him. You're all dismissed except you, Kushina, he said, composing himself. I don't know whether to be proud or worried, Koi. To have powerful contract like that will draw a lot of attention once he gets out into the wider world. I'm worried though since they seem to know about the QB in him since he called him Foxy Woxy after the test ended, Kushina said, biting her lip in nervous habit. Naruto was not a happy camper as he punted, quite hard if the yowling screech was any indication, a hog-tied cat into the Hokage's office. 12 times. 12 times this week we have had to chase and capture that little monster. I swear to Kami I am letting Kikyo use her larger form to eat the little bitch next time, he growled with a furious twitching eyebrow. And you lady, Shinji, his head swiveled to glare at the noble, if you want a damn pet to seek affections from, you constantly do us all a damn favor, get a dog. No genin in the village likes chasing the cat you nearly murder with your hugs. The only reason the cat isn't dead is because no one before me had the balls to say it to your face. Next time my team has to retrieve your abomination runaway cat, it very well may return dead in a tiny little matchbox if Kikyo doesn't eat it first. Clear. The look on his face and the tone of his voice was daring the noble woman to challenge him. Kushina was sweating furiously beside Naruto and Satsuki, who was hiding behind Minato. As much as it was what they all felt, they liked living and not being confined to a dungeon in the darkest basement of the daimyo's palace. The noble woman looked between the hog-tied cat and the blonde genin who dared speak to her like that. It's about time one of you genin showed some backbone. I much prefer dogs, but my husband the daimyo likes to see you twerp, squirm, plot and scream yourselves raw, lady, Shinji said, retrieving the money for the mission and tossed it on Minato's desk. She noticed the slack-jawed expression of the Hokage and the 3 women hiding behind him. What? I despise felines. Mangy things have too many needs. Change a litter box. Much more scutinous diet to keep track of, and don't even get me started on, she ranted for nearly 20 minutes before stopping with a huff. Do what you want with the monster. I don't particularly care. Just like that, the daimyo's wife left. Naruto grinned a bit demonically, further scaring the 3 women as he stalked over the still-bound animal. Oh, Kikyo, I have a present for you, Naruto said with a creepy sing-song voice. Said winged serpent appeared with a curious look. Lady Shinji ever so generously gave us permission to do what we want with her former pet. Still want EA? Naruto gulped and steeled herself before darting out to scoop up Tora since she kind of liked the cat, and she was the only one the feline never scratched. You are not letting her eat Tora, she said defiantly. She's coming back with me. How's that sound, my little precious kitty? Naruto scoffed at the sickly sweet coddling of the mangy cat. Oh well, he said, shaking his head, and held up a live mouse by the tail, squeaking in fear and futilely trying to escape. Quicker than the women could do anything, Kikyo swallowed the mouse whole and curled up happily on Naruto's head, while the 4 people could only gawk at him. So can we get a real mission already? I tire of wasting my time on chores civilians are too lazy to do on their own, he said, scowling. Oh well, that's up to your team, sensei. While you have done enough D ranks to qualify, the decision rests with her if she thinks you as a team are ready for a C rank, Minato said, finding his voice, clearing his voice. Do you think they're ready for a C rank, Kushina? Naruto sends a shadow clone to do the chores and trains independently that he's given Guy a run for his money and won. Quite literally, Kushina said with a shudder, remembering the sonic boom the two made racing along the village walls, scaring the civilians senseless. Sword skills with his summons weapon are easily on par with Yugao if his spars with her ending in occasional draws are a sign. Ninjutsu and genjutsu are more than acceptable. Taijutsu has only improved since he started training with Guy. The 3 women in the room shuddered, remembering watching him run a suicide gauntlet of traps through Forest of Death with level 5 gravity seals and being chased by an enraged Enko, somehow giving the purple-haired Kunoichi the slip to their astonishment. As for both Satsuki and Naruto, they're improving every day as well, not leaps and bounds like Naruto, but at a much faster rate than what I have observed of their graduated and past classmates, Kushina weighed. Except Satsuki's obsession with trying to bed me is getting worse by the day, Naruto said irately. Overall, I think they can handle a C rank, Kushina said pointedly, ignoring Naruto's words about the Uchiha girl. Very well. Maria, send in Tazuna the bridge builder. It's a simple escort mission, so you shouldn't run into any problems, I expect, Minato said as he pulled out a mission scroll from the C rank pile and tossed it to his wife. What's this? I pay good money for an escort, and you give me children? You must be joking. An older man with graying hair, a large sun hat on his head and glasses, walked into the room with a sake bottle in hand. Tazuna-san, was it? Naruto asked with an eerily calm smile, approaching the man. Right now I could think of 50 ways I could kill you with a pencil, and the only people who could stop me are Thing 1 and Thing 2 over there. He jerked a thumb at Kushina and Minato, who were sporting twitching eyebrows, so I suggest you show us the respect that we deserve as shinobi. Escort missions are simple missions, so you do not need a squad of, say, chunin or jounins. At the most we may run into bandits, and trust me when I say they will die violently, most likely by my hands, since I don't give any value of human life or dignity to low-life trash like bandits or mercenaries. Unless you are lying to us about the dangerousness of the mission, he said. Naruto, stop scaring the client, Kushina said, noticing Tazuna shake slightly under her son's gaze. We'll meet you at the gate in an hour, Tazuna-san, and don't worry. Even if we do run into bandits, I am a jounin, so I am more than capable of handling them. He's lying to us, Naruto scoffed once Tazuna was out of the office. His level of fear and anxiety spiked when I mentioned him lying about the mission rank. Unless I am the only one who's keeping up with current events, then everyone should know the recent emergence of a large shipping company based out of Kiri called Gata Shipping. What's that got to do with anything? Satsuki asked with a scoff. A lot, if you let me finish. Where precisely are we to escort Tazuna-san back to Kushina-san? Naruto asked. Nami no Kuni, though I don't see where this is going either, Kushina said with her eyes narrowed, trying to piece the puzzle pieces together. We've been attempted to be had is what Naruto said, swiping a finger across a seal on his wrist, grabbing sheafs of paper that appeared after a brief flare of chakra. Gato is a crooked businessman that has shady backwater dealings with nearly every criminal faction out of Kiri that is supporting the current Mizuki Jigura that is the cause of the current civil war and bloodline purges in Mizu no Kuni. According to Jiraiya's reports, he laid down the papers in his hands before Minato to look at. Gato Shipping has a headquarters in Nami no Kuni where he bases a lot of his operations. Drugs, human trafficking, sexual slavery and more shipped out on legitimate export ships to the other great and minor nations. Going further with Jiraiya's reports, Nami no Kuni is an island nation who relies solely on imports to sustain itself, and Gata Shipping is the only import vein they have, so they get taxed to near death. If Tazuna is worried about bandits attacking him, that means there's going to be shinobi attacking and trying to kill Tazuna, since if his bridge gets built connecting Nami to the mainland, he can no longer drain the country dry and exploit its people. Minato finished clenching his hands. How did you get your hands on these, Naruto? Jiraiya may be as lacking and as prophecy-focused as you two dunderheads, but he finds my conscious wider worldview scarily observant to things outside the village that he, unofficially, his words not mine, adopts the emo Thunder Cloud as my spy apprentice. I showed him a fucking Thunder Cloud after that, Naruto growled in annoyance. Anything of major importance that is not need to know of jounin clearance, or higher, I get a copy of when he comes through. So what are we going to do, Ka-san, Tu-san? Lying about the dangers of a mission is grounds to blacklist the client. But if all these reports are true and they are as bad off, we can't no do anything, Naruto said, petting a purring Tora in her arms worriedly. I should say we tell go the gate and Tazuna fuck off for lying to us. Naruto ignored the incredulous looks at his callous words. But I need a good workout. So I say we take it anyway, but add on a secondary objective to kill Gatu. We cut off the head of the snake and transfer the ownership of Gata shipping to Nami for legitimate business, then they can pay the excess balance of a B-rank mission back to us once they get financially sound again, Naruto said. Well, I can't fault your logic on one hand. On the other, B-ranks are reserved for seasoned chunins and higher. And what am I, chopped liver? I spar with jounins on the regular, and win roughly 60% of THS time. I spar with Yugao and draw ties with her in armed combat, we know that's her specialty for reasons. Plus Naruto jabbed a finger at Kushina, crazy psycho chakra sucking and suppressing chains. Why are you worrying? Worst comes to worst, she has to summon backup with your instant backup summon seal for a squad of higher rank depending on the severity of the opposition. Koi, he's right. The pros outweigh the cons in this situation, Kushina said, shaking her head. We'd be no better than that tyrant if we left them to suffer under that asshole. We'll take it, and we will be fine. Go pack for a 2-week mission and meet me at the gate in half an hour. Satsuki and Naruto left via the window while Naruto reorganized the reports and sealed them back up in the seal on his wrist. Don't forget your sword, Kushina-san. Things tell me this mission will be fun. I do hope you remember how to use it though, Naruto said with a smirk before he disappeared in a vortex of fire. Should we worried about him? He seems a little too excited, Kushina said with a worried glance to her husband. Maybe it's probably just nerves. I hope, Minato said, trying to convince them both. It was a widely known fact it was best not to incur the ire of one Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze if you valued your health. It was widely known how violent he got when he was irritated, as evidenced by the episode with one brash Inzuka heir at graduation from the academy. So why was it he was irritated right then? Many reasons actually. Naruto was chittering away a mile a minute about some insignificant magazine article that no one but her seemingly cared about while picking at the wrappings on a kunai handle, making a metallic clinking sound saturate the air. Satsuki was hanging back as the rear guard, and he was certain her eyes were glued on him like a lust-driven lunatic while she laughed in what most civilian would deem a crazy or evil way with the barest hints of a smirk on her lips. Tazuna was on his way to being drunk and becoming more obnoxious by the minute. Kushina, well, he wasn't annoyed with her surprisingly. She was actually being completely professional and minding their surroundings for threats like a real shinobi or kunoichi worth their salt should, while the other two genin were not. Kushina-san, can I please take point before I put a level 7 silence seal over your daughter's vocal cords and bind her hands so her motor mouth obnoxious nervous tendencies doesn't tell every bandit in the area where we are? Naruto asked with a twitching eyebrow and a skull. The tone in which he said it was more of a demand than a question as he took point in the formation. Cammy, it's like I'm surrounded by children, he raged mentally. Kid, you are technically by merit of your age children even if your headband says you are legal adults, Hitomi said with a tisk sort of tone. Besides, I thought you would like having a girl check you out. Of course the Uchiha bitch isn't my idea of a girl that's good material for anything other than a whorehouse. Now let's sister, be nice, Leviathan admonished with a shake of her head. I despise her clan as much as you and our other siblings do, but I know even you do not truly wish such an ill fate on the girl. Even if she is self-centered, ego-driven, self-serving manipulative cunt. Naruto shook his head as his mother and aunt bashed on the Uchiha princess. If I want a woman to check me out in that fashion, I think I would prefer a woman like Enko-san. All these children pretending to be true kunoichi only make those who proudly do the title justice look bad, he thought with a scowl. Unlike most new generation shinobi, he didn't look down on his female counterparts. Shinobi were better suited naturally for more frontal and full-out offensive lines of ninja works since they developed more muscle mass and by extension larger chakra reserves, so throwing out jutsu in prolonged combat was easier. Kunoichi on the other hand were able to infiltrate the more subtle edges of the jobs, information gathering, often having easier times with assassinations since most women now were viewed as unassuming and the like. Then again, he conceded points could be made where either gender with the correct conditioning and training could fill both sides of the coin. Kit, are you running a fever or something? Cause I think I just heard you say something more crazy than normal, Hitomi said, pinching herself, and growled lightly at the light. Pain. Did you just say you would prefer a woman like Enko Mitarashi checking you, okay? He must be getting sick when Isama. Actually, little sister, I agree with my cute little nephew. Despite all appearances, Enko-san is a respectable kunoichi who has gotten the brunt of a shitty stick. Sure, she dresses like a slut, but THS way she carries herself says it's all a front, Leviathan said, propping a hand on her cheek. Think about what happened to her, and precisely where she works within the village. It's an image, not how she is. Naruto tuned out the conversation at that point as his mother and aunt got into a little tirade about Enko, and held up his hand for the group to stop. 2 puddles up ahead in the road. Minimal amounts of residual chakra in the air suggests genjutsu. My senses pick up the smell of iron and mist drifting on the breeze. THS' logical conclusion is that these ninja are supposed to either be a test or the first encounter for the real threat. The message was done with silent hand signals most jounin and higher-ranked shinobi learned for higher-ranked missions so as not to compromise their positions. Mama Naruto, relax a little and enjoy the scenery. You're always so tightly wound. Perhaps you and Satsuki should go on a date, or something when the mission is over. The both of you are wound like springs about to burst all the time, Kushina said, strolling past her son, and flashed back a silent confirmation signal behind her back. I'd sooner willingly drink a gallon of bleach and pop 100 cyanide capsules, Naruto snorted with a growl. Even if Kushina's words were to lay the illusion all was natural, he didn't appreciate jest of her words. That's uncalled for, Oniai-san. Satsuki isn't that bad of a person, Naruto said with a scowl. Sure, the Uchiha had more than a few screws after what Itachi did, but no ninja worth their salts had all their nuts bolts in place. Kakashi had his tardiness. Kushina was really dark in her humor. Her dad was a complete spaz that should somehow contradict his genius status, yet it didn't. She herself was ditzy when it came to most civilian affairs, and her elder brother, well, he was a heartless asshole. To everybody. Not everyone, little Kit. He treats that dirty snake bitch well enough. Treats her with respect, and he treats you like dirt, hissed the dark voice in Naruto's mind. Oh, the young half of Kyuubi did not like her container one bit, but if she could manipulate the jealousy the young woman hid so deeply in her heart to cause trouble, she would. Then you have her, because quite frankly, if I find one more of my jackets conveniently missing and they just conveniently are in her possession, I'll run her through wit. Beneheim. Council be damned. She's a fucking stalker with one too many screws loose that she's only a ninja so she can unlock the Sharingan. Once she does, I'll bet you that her first major injury she gets, the Kusal revokes her ninja license and forces her into the CRA so the village has the next generation of Uchiha popping out between her legs, Naruto said with a cold dead glare aimed at Satsuki. Naruto, that's enough. Apologize to your teammate, Kushina barked at the blonde. Even if it was damn near right on the mark for truth, he didn't have to put it like that. Why? She's the council's little pet project. She's just another puppet on the strings of her superiors. Might as well tell her where her strings will end her up, Naruto said with a dark scowl. You like her clan less than I do, so why defend her? Bunch of arrogant thieves with the eternal stick up their asses who think they're Kami's gift to the world. Satsuki's eyes festered with rage at the last comment. It wasn't the first time Naruto had spoken ill of her kin, and she had let it slide since he was blunt about particular people in those instances, people who were guilty of crimes that warranted the ill words from the blonde. She would not, however, tolerate a broad-stroke slander of her clan, since there had been a lot of good innocent people too, and they outnumbered the stains by orders of magnitude. And what makes you so high and mighty, huh? You talk like your shit don't stink. She snarled ferociously. My forebears created every seal they used by their own hard work. My forebears did not actively seek war like the Uchiha clan did, or have you forgotten Uchiha Madara? By measures of the ancient daimyo laws that were preserved, he was a war criminal for his actions, inciting many major unnecessary battles that killed not just a large bulk of Uchiha ninja but what would become the founding clans of Konoha. Naruto said, not even looking back. The Uzumaki clan of the ruined nation Uzushio was a neutral clan that never sided with anyone in any armed conflict until Iwa, Kiri and Kumo attacked it. 25,000 cowards against an island nation of Seve, 8,500 people. At the time there was an active shinobi register of 3,000 shinobi, nearly 1,000 academy, and the rest were civilians, mainly women and children. For 3 days my clan fought before the fall, Kushina said with a dark look. But we took most of them down with. We evacuated who we could, but it wasn't many. The survivors of the massacre scattered to be 4 winds of the nations. The point is, Uchiha. Naruto stamped his feet hard in the puddles as the sickening crunch of skulls caving in penetrated the air and blood seeped out as the genjutsu failed with the sudden stop of chakra revealing corpses at his feet. Your clan steals willy-nilly from friend and foe seeking warf off war's sake to satiate your bloodlust. Those of Uzumaki blood, we end it when we get involved, he said as he severed the heads of the Nin and sealed them up. Demon brothers Meizu and Gozu, stands to reason we'll run into their associate Sabuza Momochi. Kushina-san, he said after sealing the bodies in separate scrolls. Wonder if the hunter division accepts body bounties to disseminate secrets from the actual bodies themselves, he thought, stroking his chin for a moment, as Satsuki blanched at his callous, brutal display. Tazuna gulped audibly, seeing the sheer ruthlessness displayed by the blonde boy. He knew that ninja were cruel and efficient in their actions, but holy shit was it different to see up close personal. Tazuna, the only reason why you aren't dead or walking back to your decrepit country alone is because I personally convinced the Hokage to allow the mission's continuance despite you lying to us, Naruto said, wiping blood from his sword. The fact that the demon brothers were the first bump in the road means we face much more serious threats down the road. He turned his gaze to glance at Kushina. Do you wish to inform the relic over there of the new mission negotiated terms, or should I? He asked. Despite every right to turn the mission down and blacklist your country from ever requesting missions completed by us again, valid arguments were made by my son to have it made. Your country will pay the remaining balance of the upgraded mission pending the ranking it makes with the opposition we face. You will given a set time period for your country to financially get back in the black, after which we will expect payment of the due balance. Pending the balance being paid, I am more than certain my husband the Hokage would be more than satisfied with a temporary trade deal for commercial shipments of natural resources like metals and the like, Kushina said as she rifled through her scroll pouch. Finding the right tag she was looking for, she set it on the ground and activated it with a flare of chakra. You summoned back up. Once the cloud of smoke cleared, a squad of ANBU was visible. Yes, we did. Pending further threat analysis, our C-rank escort is now a B rank at minimum, Kushina said before Naruto butted in. The demon brothers Meizu and Gozu attempted an ambush. They failed and are dead. The logical conclusion states we will run into their associate A rank missing Nin Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the bloody mist. Hokage-sama has allowed the continuance of the mission with a secondary objective, The assassination of criminal asshat Gato of Gato's shipping, Naruto said. The A and B looked between themselves before glancing to Kushina for confirmation. Seeing the woman nod the head, A and B sighed, rubbing his mask where his temples were located. And you wish us to do what exactly? He asked. Forward scout and deal with any threats. When we reach Nami no Kuni, scout out for thugs or undesirables employed by Gato to extract information from. If at all possible, neutralize the target and the insects he employs before he becomes a bigger problem than he is already, and seize all the assets you can before destroying his base, Kushina said, summoning her sword from a seal on her wrist and securing it at her waist for an easy draw. Forgive me a moment, Anbyu-san, but I have a question, Naruto said, drawing shocked stares from teammates and Kushina. Do you know if the Hunter Division takes body bounties? I already separate the heads from the Demon Brothers' corpses for claiming the bounties on them, but I wasn't quite sure that the hunters took bounties to disseminate the secrets from intact enemy corpses. The Anbyu looked at each other, well as their masks allowed, for a long moment before the second in command spoke with a feminine voice. We cannot be certain. Given the duties associated with the Hunter Corps, finding enemy corpses intact is hardly ever a case. You would be better off speaking to the head hunter. She couldn't help her squad snicker at the bad pun about that when you returned to the village. Very well. I appreciate your honesty, Anbyu-san, Naruto said politely, inclining his head to the dragon-masked woman. Let's move out, people. I want to make decent ground before nightfall, Kushina said with an annoyed glint in her eyes. Her son showed respect to a woman he didn't know the identity of, and she, along with her husband, his own twin, got a cold formal by the name recognition. Damn right she was annoyed. At least it was starting to get even marginally better for her and Naruto, so it seemed. Naruto wasn't actively going out of his way to be where they were anymore, since he acknowledged Kushina's experience was a good means for training, and Naruto, despite her minor flaws, amused him with her inadequacies that came to Kenjutsu, but neither did he actively seek them. Oni-san, why do you care if those guys have bounties? I know you moved out and pay all your own bills now, but I know mission pay covers that by the time it's due, Naruto asked. Curiously. It does, but it doesn't hurt to have a rainy day fund. Besides that, if the Hunter Division can discover the secrets to techniques that the Demon Brothers used while they were alive, it gives us an unfair against Kiri ninja in the future, since most likely techniques they used are a common thread among many Kiri shinobi. Knowing how a technique operates and how the body reacts to the molding of chakra to perform it can let a shinobi properly counterattack to do the most damage and nullify the technique that their enemy was going to use in the first place. Proper utilization of knowledge is a much deadlier weapon than any jutsu or weapon, Naruto-san, Naruto said. Very well said and true. You could have the biggest reserves of chakra, strongest jutsu, and the sharpest weapon on a battlefield, but if you don't have the knowledge to wield them effectively, you can die as easily as if you do not possess any. The lead Anbyu, a young man in a frog mask, said before he and his squad disappeared into the trees. The dragon-masked Anbyu woman was checking you out, Kit Hitomi said with an amused sing-sun tone. Even if Anbyu had masks to protect their identities, the ways certain parts of the body channeled chakra told a lot more than many realized if anyone knew how to interpret the flow. I'm flattered then. She's obviously a serious kunoichi like Anko-san, so I have no problem with it, Naruto thought with a shrug. Well, look at my cute nephew, the little stud, drawing all the older women's attention. You know, they say older women are more knowledgeable and willing to teach younger lovers, Leviathan purred in a teasing tone. She nearly doubled over in laughter as Naruto tripped over a rock when she said it, and had to catch himself on a tree for support. Naruto tried his damnedest not to blush at the context of his aunt's teasing words, but god damn it, that didn't work. Thank Kami above he was in point so no one saw his very faint blush. Kikyo, do me a favor. Dispel and give your mother a smack upside the head for me, he muttered. Why? What did Ka-san do? Kikyo asked with her childish teasy tone. Naruto whispered just why, and the young Leviathan looked incredulous and scowled. Right away, she poofed away. Something wrong, Naruto? Kushina asked, noticing the blonde stumble as they walked. She got no answer beyond perverted boss summon calling me cougar bait, and other half-mumbled ramblings. For 3 days the group was met with safe travels. Besides a few bandits that the Anbyu deemed too low a threat to be dealt with, leaving Kushina to do so, making the woman annoyed, the road was clear of danger. ND, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong, Naruto pouted as she vented to her mother. She had been trying for the last 3 days of their travel to draw her brother into conversation, but all attempts failed. She tried talking about training, he told her to do it instead of talk about it. She tried talking about summons, he told her that he would give his contract up before he gave up more than absolutely necessary to anyone, and she was not someone who needed to. No jack squat. Kushina sighed and rubbed her temples, trying to kill a growing migraine. Listen, Musum, I know you're trying, but we are making headway. I mean, he may laugh at your utter failures in Kenjutsu, and only acknowledge my experience in the field as a resource for training, but at least he isn't actively avoiding us anymore. Too bad the same can't be said for your father, she said with a grimace. Just thinking of the last encounter not sanctioned under shinobi business made her shudder, remembering the mess it became with Naruto's swords in a scissor position to take Minato's head off, and her husband having a right-hand chakra charged kunai inches from penetrating Naruto's stomach after the two had a battle of words that got heated much too quickly and much too violently. I know we're making headway, but Naruto grimaced, closing her eyes at a sudden pain in her head. There has to be something we can do, He's family, Ka-san. Her eyes drifted to her brother's form pressed against a tree staring at the sky as the first stars came out. If we push any harder he may just leave us all together. Let things go with the flow, princess. I'm sure we'll get him back. Not sure your brother or father will have a bridge to connect if things progress between them as is, but we just might. I hope, Kushina said. Get some rest, your guard shift is in 4 hours. Naruto sighed and nodded, crawling into her own tent. I hope Ka-san is right, she thought to herself as she laid in her sleeping bag and let sleep take her fairly quickly. Something on your mind, Naruto? Kushina asked, taking a seat on a log 10 feet from her son. The look on his face was rather thoughtful, with his eyes half-lidded with a squint reminding her of Shikaku when he played shogi. Nothing of concern involving you, Kushina-san, Naruto replied, letting one eye open fully to glance sideways at her. I figured you would be sleeping right now since I drew first watch. Did you need something of me? Kushina sighed, internally debating on whether she should actually ask the question that wanted to escape her lips. Just one question, and I would ask that even if you do not respect me in the respect of being your mother. She ignored the scoff that escaped him. That you show me the respect as a human to answer what I'm about to ask you without the snide remarks you usually give, she said, leaning her elbows on her knees and rested her chin on her hands. Snide remarks are duly earned, Kushina-san, or has your husband's forgetfulness rubbed off on you? Naruto asked. I wanted to ask what it would take for you to give your sister and I a second chance. Before you go and bite my head off, I know. I have a lot of nerve to ask such a thing, right? Naruto Sochi, we fucked up bad. We abandoned you to your own devices thinking your sister needed the more pressing help considering she has the oppressive and corrosive yang chakra, Kushina said, holding a hand up to cut off his no doubt poison-laced words he wanted to hurl at her. We favored your sister. Gave her everything. And if I could change it all to keep it from coming to this, I would, even if it killed me in the process. Naruto skeptically looked at the redhead with cold blue eyes. What's your point? He asked bluntly. I want to know how your sister and I can at least try to repair the damage we caused. We want to prove we actually want to be at least trustworthy in your eyes. That's it. We want a chance to repent, Kushina said, standing up. Just think about it. And you were wrong. As happy as I was about having twins, he wanted a girl to spoil and pamper. I was far more excited about you, my son. My pride and joy, so strong in so many senses. Even if it means nothing to you by now, I'm proud to be your mother, and I love you more than you realize. She turned and left toward her tent, leaving Naruto in silence. Naruto's eyes followed Kushina's form as she went into her tent and zipped it up. She's got nerve, he thought darkly as his eyes shifted back to the sky. I can't believe I'm going to say this, nephew, but give them a shot. They did a horrible thing to you and that I can't nor will I ever forgive, but holding a grudge will sour you from the inside out. Pull them aside tomorrow and talk to them. Give them one chance between them both, Leviathan said, curling up on her bed inside his head. Why should I? Minato's burned his bridge completely after the last encounter. Who's to say they're not in on some sort of plan with the blonde bastard, Naruto thought with a snort, scaring a colony of just waking bats. And who's to say they are? I am your mother, Kit, and I always will be. The way she spoke, the inflections of her voice, even the way she looked at you screams of a desperate parent trying to reconnect with their young, and your aunt will agree. Talking to them with a truth seal can give you the peace of mind to know if they try to deceive you, Hitomi chimed in. Can't win for trying, can I? Naruto muttered with a groan. Fine, I'll talk to them, but you two are going to be there as well. Only way I'll do it. The mental cheers made him snort again. Troublesome women. The minor headache from mental slaps to his head didn't bother him as he whistled quietly and Kikyo settled on his lap before she changed into her human form. Bedtime for you, cousin, he said as she snuggled into his chest and hugged him tight. I can help you keep watch, Kikyo protested as she nuzzled against him. I'm going to need you at full strength tomorrow, so rest. I have a feeling something is going to happen. I'll wake you if something happens. I promise, okay, Naruto said, flicking Kikyo's forehead lightly. Now sleep or I make you sleep with the plushie instead of curling up on me. Fine, no need to be mean, Kikyo pouted cutely, and yawned silently as she got comfortable in his arms. Night, Naruto. Good night, Naruto said quietly as Kikyo began to fall asleep. Silly girl. I might be your comfortable pillow, but I'm not one, he thought with a soft mental laugh as he gently brushed strands of her hair from her face. You love her, don't you? Leviathan asked with an almost quietly thoughtful tone of voice. Course I do. She's family and I'll always protect her. Even if it means putting myself in harm's way to make sure she doesn't get hurt, Naruto said in a near whisper as he kissed the top of Kikyo's head. From within his mind the two women shared a long sideways glance before shaking their heads simultaneously. They'd leave it for now and maybe Naruto would see it of his own realizations. Skewed as his view on family dynamics, so was love, it seemed. If he couldn't see that Kikyo was attached to him beyond just being family, then maybe it was time for a little talk to set him straight. Nika-san, is it just me or is the fog really thick outside? Like unnaturally thick, Naruto said, peering out the window of the boat cabin. Tazuna made a non-committal grunt before he returned to talking to the boat's driver in hushed tones. Considering our relative closeness to Mizuno Kuni and our likely opponent, it's not surprising. Zabuza is a master of the silent killing Kenjutsu style in collaboration with Kirigakure no Jutsu to disorientate his opponents. My suspicions lie in this as natural fog since I can't sense any residual chakra in the air, Naruto said, not looking up from his book. Kirigakure no Jutsu? Naruto asked, tilting her head slightly. The name was familiar, but she wasn't sure why. What's it do exactly? The name's familiar to me for a reason, but I'm drawing a blank. It's a supplementary Suiton jutsu that summons a mist that is laced with the caster's chakra. Since Zabuza is a former seven swordsman of the mist, he and the others were taught the silent killing, some call it the silent homicide style outside of Mizu no Kuni, style of kenjutsu. With the mist cast, visibility becomes near zero, so the seven swordsmen were taught a style of kenjutsu that relied on their ability to track and kill their targets based on tracking them through sound. Kushina said, pleasantly surprised at how knowledgeable Naruto was. Then again, Jiraiya did claim his as his spy apprentice. Oh shit, what do Jiraiya and Tsunade think of us? She thought internally, having a panic attack. That is correct, Kushina-san. Considering his weapon of choice is a Zanbato, it's safe to assume should we run into Zabuza-san, it will be a wide open area since Zanbato are too large to work effectively in confined spaces, the frog master Anbu said. He noted the moment of terror in her eyes and wondered if it was the prospect of potentially fighting one of the seven swordsmen. The look fled too quickly though for it to be that, as it was gone in a split second. How do we fight him then? If we can't see him, and he can track us by sound, then we're already dead, aren't we? Naruto said, tensing up. No. I can't think like this. I can't be weak in front of Oni-san. She chastised herself and smacked her face to center herself. Modified explosive tags. Perhaps you can explain, Naruto-san, the female dragon master Anbu said, tilting her head curiously. Modified explosive tags, Naruto said, drawing a tag out like it was the simplest thing out there with his free hand. The primary detonation of the tag keeps it explosive and damage-dealing purpose. However, the modification to the sealing array is twofold. Unlike a normal tag, the compression seal that sucks in oxygen is replaced with a vortex seal designed by Mito-sama herself. It'll suck in chakra, debris, chakra-based techniques, etc., as well as the oxygen needed for the ignition seal to spark the compressed gas to detonate the tag. The second modification is one I accidentally created during a spar with Mato Guy. When the tag detonates from the chakra primer, there's a seal that will release a sonic burst, so I'll nicely hand out special earplugs beforehand that will nullify the sound. The pitch of the sound affects the inner workings of ear, not only messing with the affected person's balance but also their sense of hearing itself. Kushina was floored by Naruto's explanation and partially scared. If he could do that to an explosive tag, just what could he do? She shuddered and squashed the thought immediately, not even entertaining the thought. I'm glad you're on our side, Naruto-san. This is a nasty little piece of work, the Dragon Master Anbu praised as she looked over the tag. Without sounding like I'm talking down your skill, this is something I would expect out of research and development, or T&I. I'm well aware. Ibiki-san and Katsuro-san have both fielded me invitations to join both of their respective departments once I reached Chunin, after they saw that little beauty, and heard about some of my other completed projects after they asked nicely. My explosive tag, please, Naruto said, he asked, lifting his eyes from his book and patiently curled a finger to hand the tag back to him. Satsuki stared with wide eyes at Naruto. How the hell did he develop something like that? She knew seals were difficult to master, but here is talking about them like it's ingredients on how to cook something like rice. Maybe you could show us. Forget it, Uchiha. If our ANBU backup wish to know how to make them, I will show them, since it would useful to the entire ANBU and Hunter Nin forces as a whole, but I wouldn't show you if my life depended on it. You have a library full of jutsu that your clan stole from friend and foe for well over 200 years, since before the Warring Clans era. I'm not handing you the secrets of my hard work so you can claim it for your own and gain money off of stolen work, Naruto said with a lazy but soul-freezing glare. Oni-san, I had a question about a technique I'm trying to learn, but I can't seem to get it right, Naruto said, butting in to keep a fight from breakout. Maybe if I asked him about kenjutsu, then he'll actually listen to me and say more than a few snide sentences, or ignore me completely, she thought, hoping it would work. I asked Kushina-san, Hokage-sama, or one of the jounin when we returned to Konoha, Naruto said, putting the explosive tag back in his pouch. I don't get paid to train. It's about kenjutsu. Naruto did a little happy dance as he seemed to force his eyes to linger for a minute questioningly. You're always laughing at me messing up, so why don't you put your money where your mouth is? You make a big deal about being good, prove it. Help me improve and prove just how good you are. Kushina's eyes widened at her daughter's brazen challenge. This could be the metaphorical straw to break the camel's back for the twins. For a tense minute Naruto stared unblinkingly at Naruto. She has an end game, he thought to himself, of getting her brother to acknowledge her and spend time with her. Kami, you are so stubborn sometimes, both Hitomi and Leviathan yelled in frustration. Fine. If you fail my expectations or disobey my instructions once, I will stop, and you will have to find someone else to correct your horrendously atrocious form, Naruto said, slowly. We will begin back in Konoha, since I do not trust you to kill yourself with your sword as your skill sits now, and the possibility of facing high-ranked missing Nin, Zabuza Momochi, who specializes in kenjutsu. His eyes returned to his book, and the cabin was dead silent. You could hear a saban bounce off the floor. Oh, and I'm forbidding your use of the Kage Bunshin for the duration. It's a cheap shortcut, and it's useless with building muscle memory or physical strength. Two things you need for most styles of kenjutsu. Kushina-san's whirling dragon style aside, which focuses on speed, precision attacks and reaction speed over muscle memory of strict kata and power, most styles require. Hi sensei. I will not disappoint you, Naruto said, bowing her head. Naruto's eyes lifted very briefly and observed Naruko's bowed head. His eyes were impassive and looked utterly unimpressed. See that you do not. I do not impress without due merit, so don't expect acknowledgement of even the most minute improvement without meeting, let alone exceeding my expectations. Kushina's eyes widened to near painfully large proportions. She expected Naruto to turn Naruko a new one for speaking to him like that, not agree. Even less she expected him to already put Naruko through her first lesson already. This is as far as I go. The boat stopped as Tazuna thanked the man before the ninja and older man stepped onto solid land, continuing their journey. Naruto, if you're going to teach that blonde idiot, choose your words carefully, Uchiha. I do not care for Naruko-san in the slightest, and I am not teaching her out of the goodness of my cold, shriveled little black heart. She will learn the bare basics as I had, and that is it. My point about your clan library of stolen jutsu stands. Or better yet, flex your precious name to the council and have them weaken the village by making jounin take time out of their day in protecting or bettering the village to train you. You're pretty good at that last I checked, Naruto snorted as he tossed the kunai in the air and caught it by the ring on its descent. I have far more valuable things to research, experiment, and perfect than waste my time in what is effectively remedial-based training others who have had more than ample time to master with the vast resources at their fingertips. Satsuki bristled at Naruto's words, though she did not show it. He should be overjoyed she was asking him to teach her. He should be on his knees kissing the ground at her feet, thanking her for the opportunity to spend her time learning from him. The council will make you teach me, and then you will have to give me strong children, she cackled dementedly in her head. Kushina and Naruko shared a look between themselves. The hurt look on Naruko's face made Kushina scowl at her son's harsh words, but the two women agreed the Uchiha brat had more than enough scrolls in her clan library that covered every shinobi art that she could teach herself, and not have to bother anyone. In fact, they would have loved if the egotistical little bitch did just that instead of flaunting her name to the council and demanding that the best jounins train her instead of performing their duties to better the village and keep it safe. Hit the deck. Naruto grabbed Tazuna and, reluctantly, Naruko as a faint whirring sound filled the air. Kushina and the ANBU members managed to get out of the path of the death saw racing through the air. However, it was as the jounin, ANBU, Naruto, Naruko and Tazuna all avoided the death blade that a sickening squelch was heard. As the resounding thunk of metal meeting wood resounded, all eyes turned to the last Uchiha. For a moment she looked fine, looked being the key word. Nanoseconds after, thin rivulets of blood trailed down her stomach as she patted it, the weak pressure separating her torso from her lower stomach and legs. Naruko's eyes widened in horror before she lost everything in her stomach. Oh, poor little baby never saw a comrade die. A cruel dark voice asked, laughing. All eyes, save Naruko and Tazuna, who joined the young woman in puking, turned to spot a man standing on the Zanbatsu buried blade first in the tree. Give me the bridge builder and I'll consider letting you all go. Zabuza Momochi. A-rank missing nin wanted out of Kiri for the attempted and failed murder of the Yonde Mizuki Jigura, insane container of the Sanbai. It is quite the honor to meet you, I must say, Naruto said, forcing himself to his feet. Zabuza eyed the blonde kid with a modicum of interest. You don't say? That would explain why the bastard didn't die easily aside from his strength as Kage. How did you come across that information, brat? He asked with a huff. Tut tut, Zabuza. Information is a commodity, and sharing commodities with the enemy is not in my style. Though I must request the honor of shaking your hand, good sir. Your little stunt with your sword just killed my stalker, and I for one could not be happier. You have saved me so much of a hassle with the bullshit she was no doubt scheming in her fucked up and twisted little mind, Naruto said with a slight smirk of a smile. The ANBU and Kushina looked at Naruto incredulously. He was happy about the death of a fellow leaf ninja. Granted, they were too, since the deceased girl was a mockery of a ninja, but to asking to shake the killer's hand? There had to be something wrong with the blonde genin. Zabuza looked at the blonde on the road like he had two heads. On one hand, the kid reminded him of himself when he was younger, with the smirk on his face and the noticeable suppressed bloodlust hiding in his eyes. On the other, he couldn't help thinking the kid had a few screws loose. Then again, every ninja does, he thought to himself. Since you, your teacher and remaining teammate are going to die anyway, I'll humor a dead man's last wish, he said with a shrug of his shoulders. Not that it matters anymore. Who was the two halves of flesh of there? Naruto strolled toward the missing nin with his hands behind his back, as they had been since the group got off the boat after putting the kunai away an hour ago, and flexed fingers in the same silent hand signals he used earlier to tell the ANBU and Kushina he had a plan, though if there were others watching it would seem he was popping his cuckles. Well, like you said, since it doesn't matter anymore, that was the last loyal Uchiha. Wasn't a fan of hers. I prefer her brother over her as an Uchiha. At least Itachi-sen was more humble and more skilled outside of other Uchihos' reliance on the Sharingan to fight the blonde genin replied dismissively. You going to hop off your damn sword and shake my hand or not? Not honoring a dead man's last wish is a stain on your honor as a swordsman, Zabuza. Noticing a seemingly insignificant ident, a slightly off-kilter square, on Zabuza's headband triggered a quick memory that made him grin internally. Zabuza growled in annoyance as he landed on the ground in a crouch, the long hilt of his Zanbatsu in hand. The kid had balls, he would give the blonde that. Well, I'll be damned, kid. Add another killed bloodline user to my kill count, the man said with a vicious smirk hidden behind the bandages around the bottom half of his face. Standing fully, he offered a hand out to Naruto. If only I could properly do so. Your bingo book entry does not accurately state what your true kill count is, Naruto said, clasping Zabuza's hand tightly. The Crimson Toad recalls the banished demons to guard the gates. His voice was loud enough for the older ninja to hear, but not one else. Zabuza's eyes widened immensely at the single sentence. Who are you, brat? He growled, not liking the fact the kid knew what he knew. Only a handful of knew about his true motives and allegiances. The blonde brat, before clasping his hand tightly, was not one of them. The winged serpent. You and your apprentice have been recalled, Naruto mouthed with an even wider smirk. No one of absolute importance. It's been an honor and a pleasure to shake your hand, Zabuza. The moment he let go, twin water vortexes were present for a split second before disappearing completely. I think I scared him off, Kushina-san, Naruto said with a faint sad tone. And here I was hoping for a fight. Oh well, can't win all the time, I guess. He skipped happily over to the two halves of Satsuki, and blinked slightly, seeing her cling to her last moments of life. As asshole, Satsuki said, coughing up blood. Yeah, I get that a lot. Can you die already? As amazing as it you cling to your final moments, you're already dead. No force in the nations can save you, Naruto said, pulling out a sealing scroll. He scowled as she weakly spat blood on his clothes before it was absorbed into the material, leaving it pure white again. Okay, now she's actually dead, he said, seeing her heart drop out onto the ground from the strain of gravity. What did you say to Zabuza, Naruto-san? The frog-masked Anbyu asked, appearing in front of the genin, his voice hard and all business. He didn't believe for a moment a genin could scare a Jounin-level missing ninja, let alone scare them off with just a few words. There was more going on than he was aware of, and he did not like that one bit. Nothing of importance to Yugama-san. Master Jiraiya would be most displeased if the need to know information he carefully cultivates was divulged to those who were not of the network, Naruto said with a sly smirk, as he sealed the two halves of Satsuki's corpse into a scroll. Naruto would not understand, but the ANBU squad stiffened at the mention, and Kushina stood a little straighter. Jiraiya was a grueling taskmaster, and did not take well to breaches of secrecy. The last person who did so was made an example of that. Even Ibiki questioned the Sanin's restraint. I see. I won't mention this in the report, then the frog-masked Anbyu said before his squad disappeared into the trees again. Let's get going already, can we? And why the hell are you all looking at me like I'm the center of a conspiracy here, Naruto asked crossly, seeing Kushina, Naruto and Tazuna intently staring at him. I'm starting to wonder if you are, Kushina said to herself. Tazuna-san, which way to your home? Naruto asked, snapping herself out of her stare. The man shook his head, breaking the stare, and started down the road. Perhaps you're picking up one too many nuances of Enko's nephew, Leviathan thought, viewing the reactions to his, albeit successful, harebrained idea. Appreciating blood and violence is hardly a crime, though, Naruto thought back with a mental whine. At least I'm not a drunk sexaholic like what Enko leads the villagers to believe. Fear is fun. Hitomi bopped his avatar with a giant mallet. In the correct doses. That was over the top. Remember how we talked about controlling your bloodlust around allies, kid, she scolded him. It had been a pain in the ass since her elder sister's gift of the sage's contract, and weapons spiked Naruto's bloodlust quite a bit, making training to rein it in a hassle. Yeah, don't kill comrades just because I want to see blood spilt. But it's such a pretty shade of scarlet. Oh, and the coppery taste is just divine. Canny, I wonder the taste of blood and ramen mixed together. Maybe I can find a volunteer and Nami of Gato's men to volunteer there for me. Try it. Naruto lost himself to his thoughts with a much too big smile of his lips creeping Kushina, Naruto and Tazuna out, making the three give him a good 10-foot gap between him and them. He's scaring me, Ka-san, Naruto said with a shudder, hiding on the clear opposite side of Naruto's view. The smile was too big, the happy spring in his step, and the fact he was skipping without a care in the world was utterly terrifying. You ain't the only one scared, girl, Tazuna said as he threw the door to his home. Tsunami, so who gets to tell high and mighty Lord Seal Thief the Uchiha is dead? Naruto asked once Naruto and Kushina settled at the table after setting their things in a spare room. I ain't doing it for damn sure. Holier than thou asshole might try to kill me again, and I won't hold back separating his head from his body this time. I saved Narco-san and the client from becoming party favors by warning everyone and dragging them to the ground with me, so either one of you two or the ANBU tells him. Kushina scowled at her son's words but knew it was a serious that needed question to be answered. The council would be pissed Satsuki was dead, but as ninja they knew they could die at any moment. It falls on me as squad leader to do it, she said. Oh, she would get an earful from Minato for having to listen to the council, but as long as she and Naruto were alive the metaphorical ass chewing she was in store for wouldn't be so bad. Pardon me, but why is this Uchiha person so important? Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter, asked as she set a tray of tea on the table. While Nami was a small country that almost never dealt with ninja villages, she was aware some ninja families were famous for special skills and couldn't help wondering if this was a case like that. Surely one person isn't so important, right? She asked, taking a seat on one of the empty chairs. Forgive me for saying but wrong, Tsumani-san, Naruto said as she stirred a small amount of sugar into her tea. Imagine your country is one pond of fish. Now most of the fish are just like you. Let's use trout as an example, but your dad is something special in your little pond. Let's say he is something like a koi fish. The blonde female genin watched the older woman's nose scrunch up, picturing the image in her head before nodding to continue. Now, if one of the trout disappears, it's no big deal. You have plenty of trout in the pond to repopulate the trout that get taken or die. Now if the koi fish dies or gets taken you have an issue since there's only one, she said. What my daughter means to say without making this a long drawn-out explanation, Satsuki was special in the sense her clan had a special ability no normal ninja had. With her dead there is no one in our village with it, or able to help bring it back into the village population besides her criminal brother who murdered the rest of their clan, Kushina said. Not true, Naruto said as he idly stirred his tea with his pinky. I sealed her body in a preservation scroll. Once we get back to the village the eggheads in the hospital can harvest her eggs and make test tube Uchiha's. Tsunami looked at Naruto with a grimace at his blunt and messed up way of thinking. Does he have an off switch? She asked, pointing to the other blonde genin. No, sadly not. Real ball of sunshine, right? Kushina asked with a chuckle, ignoring Naruto's hard look. He's blunt as 2x4, but he's right in a sense. You two outside. Naruto stood after downing the rest of his tea, the scalding hot liquid not bothering his throat in the least as he stood up, pushing his chair, and he walked outside and waited impatiently as he summoned Hitomi and Leviathan. I swear if they lie to me and I find out I'm blaming you too, he said with a scowl. Kushina and Naruto shared a look of confusion before shrugging their shoulders. We'll be right back, Tsunami-san, Naruto said politely with a bow of her head. Following her mother outside she saw Naruto bickering with two women. Ahem, about time. Hold still. The woman on the right with wings and some reptilian features approached, slapping a seal tag on their foreheads. If you want your son and big brother back, do not touch those seals. They are truth seals, so you won't be able to lie to him, she said before retreating to Naruto's side. So Naruto-san, Kushina-san, you two want something of me. Spill it, Naruto said, crossing his arms across his chest. He had sneaking suspicions, but the truth seals would force them to tell him only the truth. Any attempted lies would cause them pain. Maybe I am picking a few too many of Anko-san's habits, he thought as the stray image of Naruto AMD Kushina writhing in agony amused him. I want my big brother back. I was a spoiled brat when we were kids, cruel, insensitive, mean-spirited. They don't begin to cover it. After you moved out I realized how much colder the house was and I took a good long look at myself. I treated you worse than the Hyuga treat their branch family. I want to make amends, big brother, please, Naruto said, tearing up. Naruto's eyes shifted to Kushina, who looked entirely uncomfortable under his unblinking stare. And what of you, Kushina-san? I don't trust an iota of your husband after he tried to kill me for pointing out the truth about him being a seal thief, no better than any Uchiha after his claim to fame was stolen Uzumaki clan archived seals dating back generations. Why should I trust you for anything? He asked. There's nothing I can say that justifies what I did to you. Leaving you to your own devices, abandoning you to fend for yourself when your sister was treated every bit as a princess. I favored her when I should have trained you both instead of agreeing with Minato to start Naruto early, Kushina said, sighing and looking at the ground with shame. I broke the one tenet the Uzumaki hold highest above others: family sticks together. If I could back and beat myself within an inch of my own life before it all started, I would. But I can't, so we ask how we can make amends. We don't want to burn the bridge with you. If we can save it, we'll do whatever it takes. Anything you say? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. Saying something like that to him was like dropping a full Thanksgiving meal with all the trimmings and a desert buffet to a starving beggar, yet he resisted. He would make them sweat it out. The seals was holding up. They weren't in agony and he had to agree with Hitomi through the mental link. Even their chakras were radiating truth. Anything, Oniai-san. We just want a chance is all, Naruto said as a few silent tears all fell down one cheek. Here was her big brother, so close yet so far. Hell, if he wanted something as sick and depraved as a sexual relationship to unleash his frustrations on her, she'd agree in a heartbeat, so long as she had him back. If or when I choose to refer to you as something other than your name, I'll consider you more than strangers I just happen to share blood with. However, I happen to be in a good mood with 2 bounties in my pouch, so I'll give you both one chance. So much as one toe out of line against me or persona non grata, I'll decide what I want from you both later. Got it? He asked. Naruto nodded furiously before she ran over and hugged him tight, crying into his shirt. It wasn't how she planned it, but he was giving her the chance to make up for being a brat and treating him like dirt. The warmth radiating off him made her shiver as she snuggled into him, the faintest mix of blood, cologne, and nature wafting off his shirt. She couldn't explain why the smell made her relax, but it did as she nuzzled her face into his chest. Kushina watched with humor in her eyes as Naruto practically glomped her brother. Naruto was obviously uncomfortable with her being so close, as evidenced by a cautionary pat on the head to try dislodging her, though it didn't work. Did they still have issues to talk about? Oh yeah, she had a feeling there was going to be a whole lot of talking and demands made in the near future, but the broken family of 3 was ever so slowly fixing itself. Oh, stop looking like you two are enjoying this, Naruto said with a growl, looking at Leviathan and Hitomi grinning at him. If you aren't going to add anything, then dispel already. We'll talk about this later. His snappy tone made the women snicker as they dispelled themselves. Who were they, Naruto? Kushina asked. The 2 women I mean, and why did they look so pleased with themselves? Hitomi Ka-san and Anti-Leviathan, the Leviathan contract boss. They were the ones that pushed to give you a chance to redeem your failings, Naruto said, finally freeing himself from Naruto as she took a deep inhale of his unkaiyu scent, weirding him out slightly. Hitomi, the name's familiar for a reason and it's on the tip of my tongue, Kushina said, tapping her chin in thought, catching Naruko trying to bury herself in Naruto again. You know her as the Kyuubi, the een half of it anyway. You contained her chakra as a whole before Naruko-san and I did. Kushina froze in place. Her son thought part of the beast that her clan kept caged for almost 200 and some odd years more a mother than she was. Her heart broke knowing she deserved it. Oh, I see, she said quietly as Naruko succeeded in glomping Naruto again and burying her face in his chest to breath him in a little more. Naruto scowled and forced Naruko off him again, not even fazed by her pout. Stop being needy and be professional for once. We're in a foreign country with enemy combatants after our client. Act your profession, he said. And stop sniffing me, it's weird. I'm not a dog and you aren't an Inzuka scouting out a possible mate. Naruko pouted more at being compared to, at least it felt like to her, a horny Inzuka, but that wasn't the case. She couldn't help finding Naruto's scent unique and calming. The dark whispers of the Kyuubi's yang chakra were silent for once, leaving her with a sense of clarity. Sorry, it's just the whispers finally stopped, she said quietly. Naruto critically eyed Naruko before tilting her head up. What whispers? He asked. If she said what he thought she would, he may be forced to fully forgive and allow her back fully into his life just so she retained her sanity. Kyuubi's yang half. So dark, so mean, so angry, Naruko said with a shudder as she looked deeply into her elder brother's eyes. It takes a lot to keep it under control, but it's been getting worse lately. Of course the other half had to be acting up. Against all his own wants and desires to make her fight to earn her spot back into his life, Naruto gently wrapped his arms around Naruko and pulled her in close to him. For your own sanity, I'm giving you the simplest yet hardest test, he said quietly in her ear so only she heard. You aren't allowed to hurt me again. Ever. Except spars, that's different. Naruko nodded once against his chest. Naruto stared at the missing portion of the bridge as he panted heavily, using a half-melted rail as a support. I may have overdone it, he said to himself. Turning around, he saw the amassed crowd of Nami no Kunis people with assorted weapons and his team staring at him with eyes wide as saucers. Yeah, I overdid. Flashback. For nearly a week while Tazuna worked on the bridge, Naruto and crew trained. In that time, after setting a shift schedule on who guarded Tazuna when, Naruko made it a point to spend as much time as possible with Naruto, whether it be training or otherwise. To say she had grown was both a truth and lie at the same time. While her techniques had refined to be smoother and more effective, she was still a teenage girl. Her motor mouth puts the Yamanaka girl to shame, Naruto thought as Naruko droned on about this romance novel was she reading. Listen, Naruko, he said patiently, it was progress since he dropped the sand from her name. I know you're going along the guidelines of what a sibling relationship should be, but we haven't had one since we were like 3. Instead of trying to force it, let it develop as it will. Naruko blushed in embarrassment as she looked away. Was she really forcing it? She was only doing as she had seen other siblings do, siblings that actually care about each other. I'm sorry, she said with a sigh. I just don't know what to do or say. Ask questions of the other kid, Hitomi said, surprising the girl. In the week that they'd been training and protecting Tazuna, Naruto had injected a small portion of Hitomi's Yin chakra into Naruko, and taken an equal portion of the Yang chakra. He had theorized introducing a small amount of the positive chakra would counteract the negative chakra and force her body to make more of it once it acclimated to the soothing presence. The pair was shocked he was right, and not even 4 days later Naruko's chakra, her natural-born chakra, had begun to change from a rich blue to a silvery blue color. Not only was her chakra changing due to the introduction, but it established a mental link between Hitomi and Naruko, since Naruto's experimental swap of their separate yokais united the two halves of Hitomi in a small measure. That one suggestion ignited a conversation that was like pulling teeth. For Naruko, even though Naruto said he forgave her, she knew he did it for her own mental sanity, and not because of his own desire to. Her questions on certain subjects got answers while others were answered with questions in return. Is there anything you will just tell me without a runaround? She asked, giving up and slumping her shoulders in defeat. You're learning. Naruto sounded amused, but for reasons that were not immediately obvious. Siblings have secrets from my understanding. Ours are just much better kept because of our job. He patted her head and stood up. Let's go, we're all guarding Tazuna since today is the final day of construction with his estimate, he said. Oh right, Naruko said, blushing again, thankful her head was down. It was small, half a baby step really, but it was progress towards a measure of sibling normalcy. Hopping up, she dusted off her skirt and legs before she handed Naruto his sword. So what are you going to teach me in the village regarding Kenjutsu, Oni-chan? She asked, following the taller blonde genin. Wait and see, Naruto replied mysteriously. He snickered at the whine and pout Naruko gave but said nothing to her. Continue asking. Even with the dreaded puppy dog eyes technique, he said nothing. Instead he turned and gave her his own version that trumped the puppy dog eyes. His eyes went from blue to forest green with gold sparkles that glimmered and looked wounded. Given his greater alignment to Fox's, the look made him look like a sad, wounded little kid as his nose twitched just the right way to make Naruko look away before she couldn't resist the urge to glomp and cradle him close. I win, he chuckled. No fair, that should be a Kenjutsu, Naruko said dejectedly. Gone now was her secret weapon now to winning her way around small concessions. I had a lot of free time on my hands. Sue me, Naruto said. When the small group arrived at the bridge, they arrived to the scene of a slaughter. Corpses of men lined the bridge, blood, gore, and body parts decorating the surface. Tazuna looked ready to pass out while Kushina looked on with pure rage, and Naruto looked sick still but didn't puke this time. Well, you finally showed. You may have scared off Zabuza and his little whore, but this ends today. All of you and the bridge will die. Kill them, men, and then you're free to rape and plunder to your heart's content. The red bead and blonde girl are mine though. They'll make wonderful sluts. A midget with a cane said, smirking evilly. Malicious energy filled the air as Tazuna, Naruto, and Kushina stepped back from Naruto. Black chakra surrounded him as he broke the skin on his thumbs, doing single-hand seals on each hand before plumes of smoke appeared revealing Hitomi and Leviathan. Gather your portions, he commanded as lightning energy crackled and formed in his hand. The two women didn't hesitate and began to collect black and white chakra around their hands, white on Hitomi and black on Leviathan. Leviathan Hijitsu. The black and white chakra jumped through him, chaining together with his lightning chakra, turning it a dark gray as Hitomi and Leviathan laid hands on his shoulders. Shadow skills first held technique Lucifer's Ash Cannon. The chakra seemed to fizzle out as he pointed at the army of mercenaries. They all laughed till one swatted at his skin like he was itchy till they all noticed it. Their skin was falling off like ash from a cigarette. Many panicked, and the few that had ninja training tried to use their chakra to do something, but it sped process up, leaving piles of ashes. In moments Gato was surrounded by ash, skeletons, clothes and weapons as Naruto stepped forward 2 steps. Shadow skills first held technique. Naruto smirked viciously, exposing his fang like canines impelled down. A column of hellfire, summoned courtesy of Leviathan, erupted, destroying half the bridge where Gato and the skeletons had been. Once the hellfire was gone, it was clear the other half of the bridge was as well. That was for ordering the rape and murder of innocent people among your many crimes. Burn in hell, bastards. End flashback. My bad? Naruto said, hoping someone would say something. No answer, just continued mind-boggled stares. I can fix it? You can? Tazuna said, snapping out of his shock. Naruto nodded and looked to Hitomi, since Leviathan had to dispel after summoning the gold hellfire. Feed me a tail's worth, he said as he flew through a set of seals quickly. Earth-style, Gaia's Skybridge. As Hitomi's yukai fed the jutsu, the bridge formed out of the melted clean stone from where his hands lay. The yukai, shaped and formed carefully, promoted rapid creation of the stone deck arching to the mainland and stone pillars to support the deck so it could support civilian and merchant caravan traffic. Keeping his hands on the stone, he changed the flow just enough and muttered a quiet seal before the remaining half a tail's worth of yukai burned seals into the stone surface of the entire bridge. Thanks, get some rest, Kasa and Naruto, he said, kissing Hitomi's cheek lightly before Hitomi disappeared. The seals will self-repair the bridge if it gets damaged in any way, and if the seals detect foul intentions of anyone attempting to enter Nami from the mainland, then the nasty defense seals will kick in. The civilians of Nami let out a roaring cheer as they embraced one another in celebration. Gato was dead, the bridge was complete, they were finally free of the tyranny and financial strangulation, all by the hands of one child. No, not a child but a man, a vengeful angel sent by the grace of Kami above. If no one needs me. Naruto looked half dead as he collapsed to his hands, and knees. I'm taking a. His sentence went unfinished as he passed out. Between the use of Impel Down and Lucifer's Ash Cannon, both the equivalent of a rank fire techniques, back-to-back in conjunction with using one of Hitomi's tails for an A-rank earth technique and permanently inscribing seals to protect the bridge, it was a wonder he hadn't passed out as the yukai carved the seals into the stone. When he woke up next, it was night. His muscle groaned and resisted as he tried to sit up. God, what hit me? He asked. Looking to his side, he saw Naruto curled up next to him, asleep, using his chest as a pillow. She's been worried sick about you, kid, Hitomi said, watching Naruto just observe Naruto's sleeping face. She's refused to leave your side till you woke up. Her stubbornness to make sure you were okay has led your team to stay another night, while Nami celebrates its freedom. Naruto was silent as he sighed and gently shifted the sleeping girl off of his chest and climbed out of bed. A quiet whimper drew his eyes back to the bed as he dragged his coat off the chair beside the bed and covered Naruto with it. The way she snuggled into the warm material made him chuckle as the girl calmed buried herself in the comforting scent. You're up earlier than we thought you'd be. Naruto turned, spotting the frog-masked Anbu in the doorway. How long was I unconscious? He asked, stretching his arms out. 6 hours, give or take, the man replied. The people of Nami have taken to calling you their angel of judgment. Naruto snorted in amusement and rolled his eyes. I'd like to tell them they're wrong, but I won't, he said as he cracked his back, ridding himself of the kink in his spine. Passing the frog-masked Anbu, he spared a glance at the man. Make sure she isn't disturbed. His eyes darted to the bed and the older ninja nodded before Naruto made his way downstairs. Kushina was wrapped up in her own thoughts when the creaking from the stairs broke her train of thought. Like the Anbu that checked on him, she was surprised to see Naruto up so soon after all the chakra he expended just destroying Gato and his army single-handedly before finishing the bridge and going so far as to put security measures on it in the form of seals to protect the island nation. We leave tomorrow, right? Naruto said, more than asked. Kushina nodded her head, not sure what to say. I'll be back then. He then disappeared into thin air. Pardon me? Did you just tell me no? Minato Namikaze was not having a good day. He had 2 stacks of paperwork just shy of the ceiling, 3 scheduled meeting with individual greedy council members, and to make it all better he was staring down his wife's team. More accurately, he was staring down his son, who refused to elaborate on one tiny detail. Yes, I did, oh mighty jackass, Lord of Seal Thieves. Outside of Satsuki dying and Zabuza running off like a bitch, what I said is irrelevant. You don't have the clearance, nor are you part of the network, and I'm not having Jiraiya kill me because an impudent man-child hasn't heard the word no before. The fact Jiraiya warns about threats to the village from his informants is a courtesy, not a right, you arrogant prick, Naruto said with a harsh, venomous glare. You listen to me, Genin. I am your Kage, and you will do as I say or you why. Naruto was having none of it, and tossed his ninja license on the desk. Finish that fucking sentence, and I leave. Face the fucking facts here, you impudent man-child, Naruto hissed with narrowed eyes. You need me in this village. Naruto shows no signs of having inherited either yours or Kushina-san's bloodlines. I have them both and have been training with them since I was 6. You're probably goddamn sterile from the corrosive exposure to the Kyuubi's Yukai, so you won't be having any more children. Probably not with your wife anyway. Everyone knows you're sleeping with your secretary anyway. Kushina's angered spiked as Minato glared, new opening through Naruto's body. On top of that, if I leave, then kiss your goddamn spy network goodbye. Jiraiya despises you for the hell you put me through as a child. He's no fan of yours either, Kushina-san, but you're better off since you are trying to wholeheartedly make amends. Naruto saw Kushina relax slightly, but her glare focused on her husband could melt steel. So are you going to drop it, or do I just leave and go join a different village? I'm sure Kumo, Suna, Kiri or any number of the minor villages would love to have their ninja ranks bolstered with 2 new bloodlines and the son of the most feared man in the bingo books. Make that the most feared kunoichi in the bingo book too. Kushina tossed her own ninja license on top of Naruto's defiantly. She had forgiven far too many acts against Naruto done by Minato in the past. If he wanted to punish Naruto and push him away to another shinobi village, she would leave with her son, and me too. Naruto tossed her own license on the desk with her mother and older brothers. If he left, then so did she. She wasn't going to give him up for the world. If it drew her father's ire, then so be it. Minato looked outraged at the scene. Naruto he could deal with on his own, but for his own wife and daughter to join the mutiny? Oh, he was livid to say the least. He tossed them back with a snarl and a hiss before telling them to leave. Get me Jiraiya, and I don't care if he's fucking the princess of Yuki no Kuni, he commanded a summoned toad with barely restrained fury. You made me an enemy when you tried to kill me, you bastard. Claiming my clan's seals as your own original genius work was strike 1. This is strike 2. Don't make strike 3, because then I go to the daimyo with the black ledger exposing not only your shady underworld crimes, but your advisors and the civilian council pulling your strings like a puppet, Naruto said, shoving his license back in his pocket as Kushina and Naruto did too. We need to train, let's go. Oh, by the way, he turned from the doorway flanked by Kushina and Naruto. I know the laws of Hai no Kuni and Konoha cover, civilian and military. You can't do anything to me. I'm a dangerous politician as I am a ninja. Ask the people of Nami no Kuni. Yuki no Kuni, Jiraiya moaned as he finally relaxed, his sweat-covered form clutching a young woman to his chest. Between the heady perfume that clung to her skin and the smell of sex in the air, it was stifling in the room. He was moments from sleep when a poof was heard in the room, followed by a ribbity croak. The shrill shriek from his bed companion made him cringe as the toad looked expectantly at the sage. Get your ass up and dress, Jiraiya. That damned failure of a student of yours is demanding your presence, the toad croaked. Tell him I said pound sand. He'll get a report tomorrow, Jiraiya said dismissively, and pulled the woman back to him. He whispered something in her ear and she seemed to relax but eyed the toad warily. He threatened your apprentice. Well, he tried to anyways. Naruto, Kushina and Naruto all threatened to turn their licenses in and join another village. Jiraiya immediate sat up, leaving the woman laid on her side. In the blink of an eye he was dressed and adjusting the scroll on his back. The toad, taking this as his cue, reverse summoned them to the Hokage Tower as Jiraiya fumed. Training Ground 44. Naruto casually strolled into the deadly forest alone as Kushina and Naruto hesitated at the gate. Oni-san, is this a good idea? I mean, this is the most dangerous place in the village, Naruto said hesitantly. Like all the other ninjas, she knew what was in the forest, and had no want to go in. She was rather fond of living and not being animal food. Then go train elsewhere. I need to blow off some steam. And restock some dangerous spider venom, Naruto added as an afterthought. Your first Kenjutsu lesson begins at 0500 tomorrow morning. Remember, you failed to follow my orders as I train you correctly in the basic forms of Kenjutsu. You will find your own teacher. I will not coddle your training like he no doubt has. Manage to complete basic forms training under me and you won't end up skewering yourself mid-combat. He fluidly drew a ninjato from his waist. He was too lazy to draw his main sword from the seal on his wrist, and cut the head off a king cobra the size of a German shepherd. After that, you have to find a style that fits your body and someone to teach it to you. Any questions? Naruto asked, catching the head of the kind cobra on the ninjato almost casually. No, Oni-san, Naruto said slightly in awe. He had managed to sense and fluidly kill the snake in one strike while not paying attention as he spoke to her. If she could be that good, then she would do everything to impress her brother. Sorry, I mean sensei. Mission debrief room. You threatened my apprentice, you ungrateful little shit. Very few things got under Jiraiya's skin, but threatening, or even implying a threat to Naruto was the easiest way to infuriate him in an instant. He is one of my ninja and refused to. He is also your son. Jiraiya seethed with a murderous glare. Spotting the mission report on the desk for Naruto's team's latest mission, he snatched it up, skimming it quickly. Dead Uchiha blah blah, too bad, so sad, not. Demon brothers killed. Well, good news for the Hunter Corps to study the corpses to give us info how to fight Kiri ninjas, Zabuza Momochi and accomplices. The proverbial light bulb clicked before Jiraiya chuckled. Minato's brow twitched as his sensei began to laugh. What's so damn funny? His refusal is insubordination and shut up. The tone of finality in Jiraiya spelled certain death if Minato finished the word, and Blonde sensed it, so he shut up quickly. Regarding Zabuza Momochi, he's part of my network. You are not, last I checked. I don't have to tell you about threats to the village. I could leave you to flail about on your own, he threatened with a clipped tone that made the blonde man shudder in fear. Sensei, I didn't give you permission to speak, so silence. Zabuza is no military asset to the village, so can go sod right off and wank off your little circle jerk of masters. Threaten my godson again and not only will you lose my spy network, your son, your wife and your daughter, I'll make sure the toads find out precisely how corrupt you have become. They haven't liked you since what you did to Naruto. Just think how quickly you'll lose your contract. Maybe I'll even join Naruto, Kushina and Naruto in whatever village they choose if you drive them away. Hell, I might offer them the services of my entire network. Just to spite you. He accentuated each word with a bang of his fist on Minato's desk till the wood gave out, and the desk broke, scattering paperwork everywhere. Do I make myself perfectly clear, you little shit? Minato nodded his head furiously at the demonic visage of his angered sensei. He might be the most feared shinobi in the bingo book, but Jiraiya could decimate him as if he was nothing but a greenhorn genin when the sage was serious. You better. It's just a political hop, skip, and a jump for the daimyo to just press one little stamp. One little stamp to have your chakra sealed and you incarcerated for the rest of your life for your crimes against Naruto and this village with your dealings. I happen to possess a copy of the ledger, an insurance policy of Naruto's in case you tried anything against him. Jiraiya's normally kind and lecherous grin was vicious as the blonde Kage paled. Mind the eggshells you walk on, Minato. I have eyes and ears everywhere, this village include. With that said, the toad sage disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto stood patiently beside bed, glancing at his pocket watch before a semi-sadistic smile crossed his lips. Turning the ice-cold bucket of water over end, he snickered as Naruto shot awake with a scream. Her glare made him snicker even more. Rise and shine. I told you training begins at 0500 and I meant training begins at 0500. Get up, get dressed and eat something in the next 20 minutes before meeting me at training ground 19. Time's wasting. Her attempt to smack him failed as he already was gone in a futon shunshin. Asshole. I was in the middle of a good dream too. Naruto roared, stomping to her en-suite bathroom. She heard a commotion as her parents busted into her room with weapons drawn, looking for the threat to make Naruto scream so loud. Stupid older brothers dumping ice-cold buckets of water on unsuspecting sisters. I should put itching powder or something in his laundry, and see how he likes unwelcome surprises. Kushina face faulted at her daughter's ramblings. Seems Naruto was the one to rudely awaken Naruko-chan, huh? Well, he did say dawn was when he would start to train her basic kenjutsu form, she thought, rubbing the heel of her hand into an eye socket as she yawned. There's no threat, Minato. Naruto just gave his sister a rude awakening to remind her that when he says training begins at 5 a.m. he means it, she said. The incredulous look from the blonde male was disregarded as she dragged him out of Naruko's bedroom. You knew about this? Minato asked with a narrow half-asleep glare. Getting a good amount of sleep was a rarity for him as Hokage, so waking from a dead sleep to your daughter scream when you only had maybe 3 hours sleep tops did not make for a happy man. You mean the training? Yes, I did. She basically challenged him to prove his skill as a kenjutsu practitioner, since he always laughed at her messing up. I personally thought he would blow up in her face and tell her to pound sand, but he agreed, albeit before Satsuki died she had demanded training since he was going to help, Naruko Kushina said through a yawn. Even still, he's not properly training her. He said he would show her bare-bone basics like he learned and leave her to find an actual style to fit her body type as well as someone to teach it to her. If you mean did I know he would appear out of nowhere at 4:59 a.m. and up and a bucket of ice water on her as a wake-up call, no. I was rather enjoying my own sleep too, thank you very much. She glared back and shoved him with her shoulder as she made her way down to the kitchen. May as well make breakfast, she thought, hitting the power button on the coffee machine and setting it to fill the pot. 10 minutes later Naruko stomped downstairs dressed in her training clothes with her sword strapped to her waist. Grumbling still about getting revenge, she snatched 2 pieces of toast as she left the compound and ran full tilt toward the training ground Naruto had specified. Of course he chooses one on the opposite side of the village, she raged internally. You're 3 minutes late. Seems adding speed training may be a first stop. Don't you think, Misaki-sensei? Naruto looked up from his position perched on the lap of a woman very similar in appearance to Leviathan, only her hair was pure white, her wings a pale blue and her reptilian slit eyes were the color of molten bronze. Of course that's rhetorical. Now let me see your blade. Wielding an improperly balanced weapon or the wrong type could be the difference between life and death. Naruto glared still but handed Naruto her sword. You could have shook me awake, she said, crossing her arms under her chest childishly. She knew she was being childish, but she didn't particularly care at the moment. Naruto assholishly woke her from a dead sleep in one of the meanest ways possible. While he examined her sword as the first rays of sunlight danced across the village, she examined him. He was still dressed in his clothes from yesterday, albeit with tears and rips, and his hair was mussed up with leaves while stray drops of blood stained his face. This blade will get you injured at best and killed at worst. Naruto tossed the blade up and watched with a carefree gaze as Misaki snapped her fingers and the sword, sheath included, turned into a ball of steel. The heart of the sword was forged wrong, the balance was way too off, the style of blade is wrong for someone of your height and weight. It's like the smith was an amateur. Who gave you that sword? He asked. Toussaint did. He said it was the sword Aji-san used in the Second War, Naruto said, looking panicked. Oh, her dad would be pissed when she heard this. It was practically an heirloom, and Naruto just turned into raw metal. He was going to get you hurt or killed with you wielding that blade, Naruto said bluntly. The sword as it was forged for a tall man at minimum 6 feet tall. The weight and balance weighted toward the leading edge tells me it was designed for one-hit kill style of kenjutsu. He hopped off Misaki's lap despite the snake-like woman pouting at him. Grasp the ball of steel, channel chakra into it, and Misaki will make the steel reforge itself into an optimal blade for your form, he said. Naruto did as instructed and watched the metal begin to warp and twist around her hand after Misaki snapped her fingers. In a matter of minutes she was left holding what looked like a rather weird curved short katana with a bronze hand guard, a black leather wrap and a matching bronze pommel with a red tassel hanging off. I've never seen a sword like this before, she said, giving the weapon a cursory glance from all angles. It had the sharpness and curve of a katana, but the form was exotic to her. That's because it's not a native sword form to Hai no Kuni. Both Naruto and Naruto looked up to spot another person entering the training ground. She looked a little peeved being up this early like Naruto, though the focus of why seemed not to be Naruto. Naruto racked her head for a moment to remember the girl's name since she looked familiar. Panda-style hair, Chinese-style kunoichi shirt tucked into shinobi pants, and giant scroll on her back. She knew her somewhere. Ah, Tenten-chan, good to see you could make it. Glad you accepted my invitation, Naruto said, smiling warmly at the other kunoichi. She's right that it's not a native form to Hai no Kuni. That is a scimitar-style sword you would see more commonly in Kaze no Kuni. Well, this is the project I called you about. Remember how I said I would cash that favor in for showing you how to break your sensei and Lee's sunset hug nightmare jutsu? He asked with a Cheshire-like grin as he pointed at Naruto. Tenten didn't like the look of that grin. It was a grin that spoke like she was regretting telling him she owed him. Yeah, what about it? I mean her, she asked, slowly trying to edge her way out of the training ground. You, my beautiful talented kunoichi friend, are going to help me run her though the kenjutsu basic forms from Hell Boot Camp, Naruto said as his Cheshire smirk reached ear to ear. If you try to get out of it, then I will tell your father you are trying to get out of honor debt. Tenten paled and glared at Naruto. That's not fair, Naruto-kun. I hate training newbies. She whined and gave him the dread puppy dog eyes stare. Don't make me do this and I promise a date. I'll even throw in a kiss. Not interested. You're helping me train her, Naruto said, shrugging off the stare. While Naruto and Tenten talked details of training her in kenjutsu, Naruto glared holes through the other kunoichi. How dare that hussy, she roared internally. Flirting with her brother in front of her, the nerve of the bitch. Naruto was hers. Oh, he's yours, is he, kid? Does the little vixen want her? Big Hitomi teasingly stressed the word, making Naruto sputter and blush to pin her to a wall. Steal your breath away with a carnal kiss driven by passion? Claim your body and soul for his own? Dominate you, make you ride him to the heights of passion as his seed dash. Naruto tossed up a mental wall as her nose began to drip blood at all the perverted images flooding into her mind. Damn Ero Kitsune, she thought, unable to look at Naruto, knowing she was as red as humanly possible, and the moments of tease from the fox excited her in a sense that made her feel dirty because of the slight wetness to her panties. Get it together, Naruto. He's your older brother. Your sexy, muscle, big pants bulged. She bashed her head on the tree nearest to her. Is she okay? Tenten asked, looking at Naruto smacking her head on a tree. I don't know, Tenchan. Might be having a lesbian fantasy about you, Naruto said with a teasing smirk. Even as Tenten slapped him, he laughed. It wasn't like an insult considering her sexuality. She really was a lesbian, and only claimed to crush on Niji Hyuga for a temporary cover till she was of high enough rank to publicly be able to be with her chunin girlfriend without the red tape interfering legally, and sometimes wandering eye of other women. You are so lucky I'm doing this to repay you for that favor, or we'd be playing DDR right now, Tenten said with a scathing glare. Dance Dance Revolution? What's that got to do with kenjutsu training? Naruto asked, finally beating the perverted thoughts away. Naruto and Tenten shared a grin, not quite malicious or evil but enough to be unnerving. Nothing though, dance is good for all forms of combat, to vary footwork to keep opponents guessing, Tenten said, dropping a kunai into her hand. No, the DDR we're talking about. Naruto dropped a kunai into his own hand. Stands for duck, dodge and roll. The pair said at the same time, locking their kunai at Naruto. Naruto yelped and barely dodged out of the way, completely dropping her sword. Welcome to bootcamp hell. Naruto and Tenten cackled maniacally. Population U. First order of business, run. A moment later a veritable hailstorm of steel was being launched at Naruto as kunai and shuriken were thrown, making the poor girl run and dodge for her life. At TNI, Anko felt a shiver of happiness run her spine as she purred in delight, scaring the people around her. Seems someone is playing my favorite game, she said to herself in a sing-song tone. Never before had the TNI cafeteria emptied so fast as she Anko sighed like a schoolgirl with a crush before moving to do her interrogation. Naruto cautiously peered out from her hiding place behind the rock, looking around for Naruto and his weapon crazy friend. For the last 2 weeks the pair terrorized her, all for the sake of reflex training. The very basic foundation of kenjutsu. She called bullshit on that though, since she saw a sadistic gleam in their eyes as nearly every training session it was the same thing: dodge the projectiles and don't die. Oh, she pitched a bitch about it after, but it had been Tenten that explained to her that if she could avoid getting injured by a wall of kunai and shuriken, the next step was easier. Dodge. Naruto swapped herself with a log and said a silent prayer for forgiveness as the poor log was shredded to pulp by a shower of shuriken. Her eyes raced, trying to find the source of where the projectiles and voice was, but found nothing. Feeling a tickling sensation on her neck, she turned and on raw instinct drew her sword. Mere seconds later the grinding of metal screeched through the air as Tenten was upon her with a tantu running the length of her scimitar. Good girl, now we move on to stage 2, Tenten said with a much too chipper tone. She noted the wariness on Naruto's face and snickered to herself. While initially reluctant to help train Naruto, she was no measure happy with the Uzumaki Namake's family for their doings to her friend. She was glad she had decided to, since she could terrorize the girl in the form of training. Now that your paranoia and reflexes to dodge are at an acceptable level, she ignored the incredulous comment, and look, we will begin training with your sword itself. Most ninja can't wield a sword worth a damn unless you specialize from a young age. Kenjutsu is not just hack and slash, it is an art form all its own. Tenchan, you can give her the lecture later. We don't have the time right now. Show us what Kushina-san may have showed you. Basic slashes, guard blocks, how to disarm opponents, etc. Naruto instructed Naruto as he created a durable Doton Bunshin armed with a bokken. Begin. Naruto attacked with her sword flowing like a serpent. Her attacks were sloppy to her own eyes, but they were enough to convey she was being taught her mother's style of kenjutsu. As she and the clones sparred, she idly noted in the back of her mind the critical eye the other two were watching her. One would whisper something to the other, who would nod or shake their head and whisper something back. She lost her focus for one moment, and that was all it took for the clone to disarm her, ending the spar with point of the bokken at her point. That's the wrong style for you, Tenten said bluntly after Naruto tossed her the bokken back and dispelled the clone. Kushina-sama's kenjutsu works with a primary water element alignment. The way you move in conjunction with your sword and your chakra belies a primary wind or lightning. Naruto couldn't help sulking hearing this. First, her grandfather's sword wasn't a fit for her, and had to be reforged with a jutsu from her brother's summons. Now her mother's clan kenjutsu style wasn't a fit for her too. What was next? There was a secret betrothal contract between her and her brother to revive their clans with a sense of purity bullshit. The thought made her shiver as she suppressed the part of her turned on by the idea. However, it is a good baseline for a style Tenchan herself uses that falls under the Elemental Empire school of kenjutsu. Each form, one for every primer element, retains a sense of fluidity and reactive properties. Until we know what your primary elemental affinity is, I would suggest to continue to train the basic fluid serpent-like katas of Yuzuriyukin, Naruto said as he twirled the kunai around his finger. How can you guess what my primary chakra nature is? That's chunin and up-level stuff we shouldn't know about yet, Naruto said, sheathing her sword in its sheath. Despite being slave-driving, paranoia-inducing assholes, and training her brother and his friend were a goldmine of information. ANBU sparring partners, Tenten replied casually and grinned at the shocked expression on Naruto's face. Hitomi Ka-san tested my chakra young, roughly around 7 or 8. I have all 5 primary elements due to containing her soul. I would hazard if I have to pin your primary element down, lightning, thanks to the bastard with a strong fire secondary due to your containing the chakra. Probably in the mix somewhere is a very slight alignment to water just because of the clan, but it's not going to be very strong in all bets. A strong water affinity would hamper learn katan jutsu and augment lightning, giving you a net gain of nothing but a headache and probably having to completely give up learning fire or lightning jutsu, Naruto said carelessly. Tenten looked at friend with a twitchy eyebrow. You bastard! You said you have 2 affinities, not all the primaries, she growled out with a glare. No offense, Tenchan, but does the word ninja mean anything to you? I know you won't ever tell me all your skills, and it should be expected I won't tell you all of mine. Besides, Naruto made a dismissive hand motion, I didn't lie really. I'm only training 2 of them right now. The other 3 are untouched, so I don't consider them affinities yet. You possess equal measures of alignment in all, so regardless of training in them or not, they count as affinities. Tenten said, waving her arms to make a point. I'm still here, you know, Naruto said, barking at the pair in irritation. Seriously, what were they, too? Arguing like that was petty and childish. Oh right, forgot about you for a minute, Naruto said casually, looking over to Naruto. Well, first order of proper sword handling routine. Every day before got to team practice I expect you to do 400 slashes, 50 for each cardinal direction and 50 for each diagonal on the compass. Oh, one more thing. Naruto grinned and motioned at Tenten, who grinned just as unnervingly. She disappeared from sight for a moment. Gravity seal that self-modifies to start your muscle and speed training. Naruto looked confused for a moment before feeling a seal tag slapped on her forearm. A quick activation of chakra from Tenten, and she found herself face planted into a mini crater. Gah! She exclaimed, trying to push herself up to her hands and knees. Quit ya bitchin'. My gravity seal is 10 times the normal gravity, and Naruto-kun has his at 15. You shouldn't even be struggling since the seal is usually nice when first activated to 1.5. Tenten said with a snicker, watching Naruto flail. It self-adjusts by chakra reserves, Tenchan, Naruto said, bopping Tenten on the head. Crossing to Naruto, he knelt down looking at the seal. It went straight to 5 times. Well, that won't do. He tapped the seal and manually adjusted it to 1.5 times instead of 5. Try getting up now. Naruto found it easier to get up but had a little sweat on her forehead. You could have warned me, she said with a glare. Could've. Probably should've. Didn't, because it wouldn't have gotten me this, Naruto said, holding a picture of Naruto's face in a mini crater. Now let's go. The bastard is assigning Satsuki's replacement today. He began off with a light jog that Naruto struggled to keep up with, adjusting to the seal, mumbling curses the whole way about sadistic slave-driving training maniac older brothers under her breath. What was that? Did I hear someone say they didn't want any training? He asked with a tone that was just too nice and sweet. And no, Oniai-san. I was just saying how thorough rough you were in your methods, Naruto said with only the slightest stutter. Baka! Don't piss him off. You're on 1 nanometer thin ice with him right now, remember? She berated herself. I thought that was what I heard. I'm glad you like it so. It only gets much more thorough from here. Naruto sounded satisfied as he upped his pace a slight bit. He grinned to himself as Naruto struggled more and had to apply chakra to her muscles to keep up. Good, she isn't as stupid as she looks sometimes, he thought to himself. That's not exactly a fair statement now, Sochi Hitomi said, bopping his avatar rather hard with a hammer. Your sister is rather intelligent if you word it the right way or lead by example. She's like you, a kinesthetic learner. Could do without her being a closet pervert though. Closet pervert? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow as he took to the rooftops once they hit town. He didn't look back to see if Naruto followed, figuring if she couldn't make it to the rooftops she would follow below, dodging between civilians. Sending chakra through one's muscles to augment them was one thing, but to do so, and use chakra to propel yourself, was a chakra control exercise, and of itself he doubted she would be ready for any time soon. Oh yes, Sochi, she is quite the closeted kinky little vixen. The things she has imagined would make Jiraiya die of a nosebleed, Hitomi said, sounding amused. Some of the things she saw in Naruto's mind passed through the fox's own. I'd show you, but you might not like it. Well, not publicly anyway. She wasn't quite sure how Naruto would take knowing his sister imagined him and her in various sexual situations, most of them with him dominating her little and obedient devoted little sex slave that bent to his whims. On a level it was kinky and all that, forbidden feud bullshit that humans had a moral quandary over. On the other, she highly doubted her kid would ever see his sister in that light. It can't be that bad, Ka-san. She can't be that much worse than Jiraiya is, Naruto thought, scowling. Genius as Jiraiya was, Naruto hated the man was a pervert of the highest order. Oh look! The tower is in front of you, Hitomi said, distracting Naruto. We'll talk about this later, Naruto thought, pumping chakra to his legs and jumped, landing on the ledge outside the mission office. Genin Naruto Uzumaki reporting for duty, Hokage-sama, he said flatly with an impassive look. Where is your sister? Minato asked with an equally impassive tone and look, probably on the stairs on her way up. She is adjusting to using chakra to augment her muscles and getting used to the gravity seal placed on her for the Kenjutsu training. I and Genin Tenten Higurashi are putting her through, Naruto said, not missing a beat. I see you did what now? Naruto huffed as she finally reached her father's office and collapsed face first. This seal sucks, she thought, bashing her head on the carpet. Oh quick, you mental whining and bitching. It's only 1.5 times gravity, that's a cakewalk compared to mine. So who's our replacement for the dead bisected wonder? Naruto asked, looking back to Minato. He was certain they would still be entered into the exam. Naruto was alive still. Who would be their third-man replacement? After all, you need a full team to enter, or so he heard. There were a few exceptions where solo Ronin entered with support letters from feudal lords and other country leaders, but the solo participants almost never survive. Before I get to that, how high is your gravity seal that your sister's is a cakewalk in comparison to yours? Minato asked, raising an eyebrow. He despised being in the dark, but he deserved it after all the shit he did. After his sensei put him in his place, he took a good long hard look at everything he did to his son, with the help of his good friend Mr. Sake, and was disgusted with himself. 15 times gravity. Naruto saw Minato fall out of the chair and raised an eyebrow. What did you expect, asshat? I've been training since I was 6 in every skill of the shinobi arts. My resistance seals are nearly the same. Actually, I'm due to up them both since it's easy to walk, run, and fight normally again, he said to himself, making a note to himself. Minato looked at Naruto like he was nuts. Yes, gravity seals were excellent for training muscle growth and speed, but constantly wearing them and not letting your body adjust to its new speed and strength without them was dangerous even for a Jinchuriki. You do know when to release them and acclimate to your new speed, strength, etc. without them, right? He asked. Yeah. I'm not an idiot or suicidal to run into a fight unacclimated to new speed or strength because I upped the seal's level. What do you take me, a Haruno playing ninja? Naruto asked with a scowl and glare. Just tell us who our new teammates so we can adjust and get back to missions ASAP. I'm hurt, Naruto-kun. You didn't see me on the way in. Naruto turned slightly and rubbed his temples at who he saw perched on the arm of the couch like a wolf on a cliff. Hana Inuzuka was by no means a bad person, quite the opposite, but she was a bit obsessive like her clan. For the last 4 months after some event, or some reason he could not fathom, she had been trying to get in his pants. Granted, she was leagues and bounds better than Satsuki had been. She actually possessed skills as a kunoichi to do the title proud and was a pretty fun person to hang with, but still she had an obsession on him. Tell me it's not Hana. For one, she's a chunin already. 2. Even if you finally listen to an idea I suggested to your wife, Hana has clan duties that interfere with her being constant team present to train to be able to rely on each other in combat. Not mention combat styles we use are incompatible brawler with her clan's animal partnership taijutsu. He pointed to Hana who pouted at him. I don't fucking know yet. He pointed to Naruto who pouted and crossed her arms under her chest. And I prefer to be up in people's face with my sword or blowing them up with my inventions. He grinned slightly as Naruto took a step, a big step, away from his person. I understand that and took it into consideration. Hana would be with you too on missions outside the village. Inside the village she will attend to clan matters first and foremost as the standing heir until her brother Ki becomes of age and will train with you when she has the time to do so, Minato said. Why couldn't it have been Tenchan? Naruto muttered to himself in the corner, drawing circles on the carpet. Minato blinked as Naruto was suddenly hiding behind his chair in the blink of an eye. Am I missing something? He asked, slowly looking between his son and daughter. Naruto's shiver and shudder told him he was but precisely what he didn't know. DDR, Naruto said with the faintest weary glance around the chair. Naruto was gone from the corner and on instinct bent her head back, dodging a kunai that buried itself in the window ledge. Did some say duck, dodge and roll? Minato groaned, recognizing the chipper voice Ryer away. Midarashi Enko was a stand-alone character since the woman was shameless in every single context of the word. With purple hair tied back vaguely pineapple-esque, pale skin and coffee-colored eyes drew your eyes in first if they didn't land on her outfit first. Usually seen in an open trench coat, full-body mesh suit, tan miniskirt and a crop top to barely hide her chest to meet the edge of the words publicly appropriate, it was safe to say Enko was DSMN proud of her body and not against showing it off to mess with people. Yes, Enko, apparently my son and his friend have been playing your game with his sister. The question is why, Minato said with a directed look at Naruto who was grinning from a spot on Enko's shoulder in a chibi form. How the hell did his son manage it, and why the hell was Enko actively cradling the chibi-fied Naruto into her chest without killing him? Was the world going mad? Shall we say it together, Enko-san? Chibi, Naruto asked from his position. Seeing the grin on Enko's face, Naruto stood on her arm and cleared his throat. Counting on 3, the pair spoke, drawing creeped-out looks on the room's other occupants. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. If you can dodge a ball, you can dodge most medium-sized offensive jutsu. If you can dodge kunai, shuriken and saban, you can dodge just about anything. Except taxes. And death. And perverts, death to the perverts. Balls first with a red-hot nutcracker, and some rock salt, the pair said simultaneously, and nodding sagely at the end in the tandem. Can I keep him, Hokage-sama? I promise to feed him, clothe him and give you corrupt grandchildren by the time he's 15. Enko said, whining like a child pleading for a puppy. She noticed Hana fall over choking on her own spit at the scene, and Naruto just had a dumbstruck but mad look on her face. Minato groaned and bashed his head on his desk. This is what I get for everything I did, isn't it? This is karma for employing questionably sane ninja. Naruto-kun, come back. We need to start those sexy babies to give you old man gray hairs before he's 40. Enko yelled, running after a now normal-sized Naruto running away from her. Is this normal for you? Hana asked, finally getting herself back under control. This was almost as nuts as a day in Clan's compound, and this was only an introduction. What were missions going to be like? Or training for that matter? You know how the say goes, abandon all hope ye who enter here? Naruto asked, shaking her head. Seeing Hana nod her head, she suppressed a groan. That's basically how this team is. Our first C rank got upgraded to an A rank where Oniai-chan scared off Sabuza Momochi somehow, and then with the help of his summons not only massacred an army with 2 high-rank fire jutsu Sankaiyu to his summon, and guessing they're unique anyway since the flames were golden in color, used an A-rank earth jutsu to finish the mission single-handedly in matter of 2 minutes after the use of the fire jutsu, that melted half the bridge where the mercenary army and their midget employer stood. Normal Hana is a setting on the washing machine. Normal is a difficulty setting in a video game. There is no such things as normal on this team. Except his constant flow of books he reads while walking, that's the only constant. Everything else is expect the unexpected worst nightmare to be around every corner. Naruto lazily watched Tenten torturing Naruto as the girl tried to fend off the older girl's attacks. Naruto was improving, he would concede that, but not nearly enough for him to actually merit saying it out loud. Her paranoid instincts from 2 weeks of DDR helped her trust her gut to know when to completely avoid a strike, while also helping her trust to know when parrying a strike was smart. Her footwork was basic and unrefined, but for a genin was good for the moment. Even her muscle definition and muscle memory for proper grip was good from following his orders in regards to completing slashes before team training. Oh, it drove Kushina up a wall sometimes, but quite frankly Naruto couldn't find a care to offer up. Time you two, he called. Naruto blocked the final strike was in motion, and managed a nick, drawing a few drops of bloods. Her eyes automatically turned to Naruto, and shuddered a little under his gaze. She was a sweaty mess, and the unreadable expression on his face didn't reveal a thing about his thoughts. Of course she suspected that her improvement showed, and he had to have thought she had improved, but seemingly not enough to his standards. Tenten scowled at the blonde girl and huffed, sealing her Wazakashi away. Cheater, she said, activating a small healing jutsu to close the cut. There is no such things as fair, Tenchan. We're ninja. The only fair thing in our lives is we all die at some point, Naruto drawled, pushing himself to his feet from his resting position and popped his back, sighing a soft, pleasurable sound as the vertebrae popped back into place. That's much better. Now you two, his eyes popped between the two, Kunoichi, are slacking in your training. He silenced the pair with a hard punch to the tree he had been resting against, and visibly making an indent shaped like his fist. Naruto, your reaction speed is half a second slower than it was when we finished tormenting you with DDR and began to actually train you to use your sword's form to your advantage. Naruto pouted at the perceived insult. She knew she was nowhere near her brother's reaction time, or even Tenten, but she was actively running the drills they taught her, religiously, so how could she have gotten slower? That's not possible. Between religiously running the drills you two showed me, little Miss Weapon Fetish trying to make me an active pin cushion when she thinks I'm not looking and sparring with her every chance our schedules permit, there's no conceivable way my reaction time has slowed down. She protested while ignoring the indignant "I do not have a weapon fetish" from Tenten. And you know I never slack my training, Naruto-kun. Look at who my teammates and sensei are, for Kama's sake. Tenten huffed with a stare that could bore holes through granite. You two narrowly avoided injuring the other permanently, that would cripple them from their career as kunoichi. Naruto saw the pair shut up in an instant and demand a silent explanation. Casting a simple area genjutsu to play back the fight from his point of view, he paused it at the relevant moment. You two crossed swords seconds before they came in contact with each other. Had either of your swords come into contact with each other's bodies, the blade would have cut into muscles by your shoulders that let you have conscious control of your arm. Given Tenten's swords are forged from chakra metal and your sword Naruto is reforged to be chakra enhanced, so it's on par with natural chakra metal swords, whoever cut the other would have had their blades not only endangering the other's life by physically cutting muscle and tendons, your blades would have naturally drawn from the chakra within body, since there's a cluster of tenketsu points nestled near your shoulder. With the forceful withdrawal of chakra, your body would fight what was sucking the chakra out, and cut the circulation to your arm to save the rest of your body. A spite your nose to save your face situation, he said with a shrug. Both girls gawked before hanging their heads. Of course Naruto, or as Natsumi referred to him during training as Slave Driver 1, would notice a fatal flaw in their techniques they themselves would be ignorant to, which is why I'm going to allow Naruto to teach you Tenten the Kage Bunshin technique. You know what the technique is useful for and many other applications, plus the reserves for at most 2 clones as you currently stand. Naruto continued, ignoring the shocked head snapping up. However, you are only allowed to use it to train when you are not in the village. I don't need you killing yourself from chakra exhaustion, and us being to blame for it. Naruto's whine was preemptively cut off as Hana entered the clearing with another girl in tow behind her. She was pretty plain looking at first glance, shoulder-length black hair tied back in a hair tie with tan skin, brown eyes and of average height, until the pair got closer. What made the girl different was the markings on her face, red upside-down triangles decorating her cheeks. Who's that with Wolfie? She asked, using the nickname she had given the Inzuka heiress after a few meetings with the peculiarly feral young woman. Who know? She's another Inzuka, though if the markings on her face are an indication, Naruto said with a yawn. He didn't particularly care who the girl was as long as she wasn't going to try and get him like Anko or Hana had been trying. He was flattered, but Anko was a little too much all the time and Hana was a wolf in heat around him. Wolfie, huh, princess? I can show you just how wolfish I really am if you like, Hana said with a smirk as she and the other girl got close enough to be heard. When the younger Inzuka girl groaned, she turned and huffed with a light glare. Don't side with her, side with your older sister on this. Naruto, Naruto and Tenten shared a look at the two women bickered. This young woman was Hana's younger sister? That would have to mean she was Kiba's twin or born just after him. Well, you have to admit it yourself, you are more feral than even your mom sometimes, ends that saying something? I mean, come on, you stalked my apartment building, for crying out loud, he said, raising an eyebrow as the pair shut up. Hana's face slightly flushed and the younger Inzuka female looked up incredulously at Hana. I do not stalk the apartment complex manager chases you away a minimum of 6 times a month. You're a stalker, an incredibly attractive and talented stalker, but a stalker nonetheless, Naruto said, cutting Hana off before she could try to reason off his accusation. He didn't miss the jealous look on Naruto's face at his calling Hana attractive, nor did he miss Hana blush darker for a moment. So is this a social call, or I recognize you now? He smirked and pointed at the girl, whose eyes widened slightly with a horrified look. You're the one they call wet-nosed Nora, he said. Hana looked between her sister's shamefully embarrassed red face and Naruto curiously. Wet-nosed Nora? She asked with a raised eyebrow. She knew her sister had a teasing nickname, but hadn't been made aware of it. Why do I feel like there's a story attached to this? Nora panicked, and in the blink of an eye was beside Naruto with her hands clasped around his mouth. Just remembering why he called her that in the first place was embarrassing enough. Then somehow her cousins had found out, and it was then that it spread like wildfire through her clan. Her only saving grace was that it was contained to the clan, and the clan only. There's no story behind it. Right, Naruto? She with a sickly sweet tone that promised pain if he said otherwise, though she gulped, feeling the point of two swords at her throat. Let go of my big brother before I break out a dog whistle. Naruto's expression was flat as the point nicked slightly, and a single bead of blood fell down Nora's skin. The threat of a dog whistle was harsh, but no one touched her big brother, and threatened him even if it was a veiled or implied threat. Nora! Behave or it's going to be your job to clean the kennels for the next 6 months, Hana said with a sharp reprimanding tone. So there was a story behind the nickname, it seemed. She set the thought in the background for investigation later. We're here because since the Hokage is entering all the genin teams with clan heirs into the chunin exams this year. Told you so, Naruto said with a snort once Nora had been removed from him. Hana growled at the interruption but continued. You need a team full of all genin. My younger sister Nora here graduated the academy early, and since two need a third to compete, here she is. Just to give you an overview of her skills, she is considered a prodigy with the clan taijutsu with her two ninken. Her ninjutsu and genjutsu are fairly well-rounded with a primary earth element. Her tracking skills are up among some of the best of our clans, though she needs to put it to real scrutiny out in the world, she said as she tapped her chin in thought. My skills are well-rounded and neither more focused one or neglected in another. Considering my primary element, I fit best as a rear guard type, Nora said with a cough into her fist, trying not to puff her chest out too much as Hana sung the praises of her abilities. Naruto raised an eyebrow further till it almost reached his hairline. He leaned forward, drawing a bated breath from all four women. I'm not impressed, but I guess we need her for the chunin exams, so she'll do, he said with a drawl. The four women's jaws dropped as he walked away toward the village. Team training begins 0600 sharp wet nose. Be late by a moment, and I will personally introduce you to my favorite game in the world. Naruto and Hana shivered violently as Tenten smiled a little sadistic smile. Nora, on the other hand, looked completely confused. You two look scared. Why? And why is the panda smiling like she's a cat that caught the canary? The girl asked, not noticing Hana or Naruto step back, hearing her call Tenten a panda. Run. Run now. Run fast. Run far, Hana warned before a flurry of metal and fury erupted. Nora wisely listened and ran for her life as Tenten chased her down with the fury of a demon, while ranting demonically about being called a panda. 20 Rio says she doesn't make it 15 minutes before Tenten catches her, Naruto said. Give her a little credit. I'll match your 20 and bet she makes it 20 minutes. What if Naruto Leviathan summon chunin exams? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.